at least when you spit out 40 40 really crappy web comics with no in painting or human authorship in there at all, it looks like you're doing something that's really like crazy and impressive. And yes, on like if this was even, I would say, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks ago, I would probably be saying that's pretty crazy. But the reality is almost everything that makes, like those comics, they don't make sense. You have to make them make sense by applying human authorship to them. So you'll see that if we dabble in any of these more common prompts and stuff. um
Hey, let's see. Hey, Lux. I see some regulars popping in.
oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, we I always appreciate the
Hi,
regulars when they come
Carlos,
in. Yeah.
Alan Ray, Caspers, and all of you who I'm sure will become regulars after peeping today's show.
I just appreciate you guys being here. Yes, and of course, yeah, hell yeah. Hey y'all. It's definitely, it's good to see you, Lux, and Caspers and Lizzie and what is it, Fallon Ray Art? Yes. Thank you guys. I recognize all of you, of course. Senior
Mm,
Carlos, of course. The best part of Fridays to get to pretend to work for 2 hours and have fun here.
great, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's a good way to spend a Friday afternoon, I would say. The I just appreciate you guys. Yeah, all the hearts, let's party. It's definitely true that I still haven't gotten my audio banana stuff, so I really should like get some music and get stuff going in here sometimes, but it's all good. It's all good.
And
We'll keep.
stream music, I think, if you ever want me to, but it's got to be
Okay.
royalty free.
Yeah, right, yeah. I'm also conscious of that on Twitch, particularly because I can't like be like I it's so hard for me to just traditionally draw on Twitch because I want to just blast my music and just enjoy it,
Yeah,
but I also don't want to separate my audio out and do all the rigmarole for that. So it's just it's I usually get kind of defeated when I'm like, man, I would need to be in a headspace, and I can't be in a headspace if I'm in Twitch mode or streaming mode. It's
yep.
too scatterbrainy for me. So I did want to say that while we got some people still coming in here, thank you all again. I do want to show you guys. You can see this on the stream up top. But if you go to my YouTube channel, which Kiki has linked already inside of the chat here. But let's see, is this actually going to update for me? Actually, hold on a second. Where's my web focus? I need my web. Where is that at? Here.
You never find
And
any kind of focus.
yeah. I think this is it. Yeah, that should be it there. Okay, cool. Um, and we'll switch this over to VC text here. Okay, cool. So on my YouTube channel here, which is, just go to Victor Gnarly. I want to point out that Lux, who's right here saying let's party. I uploaded the entire stream from her AI video
I
thing,
tried.
but I also included a supercut of it. So it's basically like wherever I'm rambling on about something specific rather than just reacting to footage. There's a couple of demos inside of the supercut version of it, and the supercut is how long is that? 8 minutes, 8 minutes or so. And the full length version of the stream, however, that is, let's see how long that is actually, because I kind of forgot now. Yes, the Cowboy Vic AI animation stream is 4 hours and 8 minutes. So it's one of the bigger commitment ones that's on there. But um, you'll see that
All
if we
right, let me
kind of
take a look at that.
dabble through this really quick, you'll see all sorts of AI animation sequences that goes into like editing, clips before we end up processing them and just doing a bunch of other stuff. So, if you really want to see stuff about AI video, that's where I would go check this out. So, yeah. Let's see here. I got chatter here, and I got to get rid of this darn screen because it's just too in the way. Ooh,
Is it the
And
saxophone solo one?
yeah, the saxophone solo one is actually me trying to let me try to hit this browser here real quick. Yeah.
Oh, so that's not the one with
Um
Lux's thing?
no, Luxus is Cowboy Vic, the
Oh,
Cowboy Vic
found
video
it.
capture. Yeah. Yeah. And I tried to what is it? I at least tried to get so there's a version of it that really gets to the meat of everything as opposed to like all the dailies, because it's 4 hours of AI video dailies. It's not everyone's gonna be down to see that. Yeehaw! Yeah. Uh, I always try and watch videos you upload for classes or streams I miss. I saw that one, was surprised how many of the images you got through. The water one were especially awesome. Yes. Anything that was either underwater or at the water line gave me really incredible results. And it really just comes down to the fact that everything is so random when it comes to the light underneath the water. Like you can get just crazy shots of water moving because everything is believable. Like water is relatively randomized element in most video and stuff. Like just the way the light plays around. I can show you a little bit of that here. Um, Let me actually unlock this so that it's easier for you guys to see. There you go. And I'll just kind of zoom in a little bit here. Yeah. Okay. All right. So in this clip here, you could see that the way that the water is dancing around is constant. Like everything moves inside of this shot. And I know it's kind of weird to see two of me. I'm just gonna kind of move that there. There you go. The thing about the water moving like this is that because you can just amp up the motion in it, you suddenly get all sorts of interesting visuals. Can you like easily cut this footage? No, no. It's that you need to basically either wait until Pico Labs updates to get longer footage, or you're going to do what I'm calling a front back, which is you render one version of it and then you put another version of it in reverse, either at the start of the clip or the back side of the clip, depending on which one looks better. Because you could effectively make 6 seconds of continuous footage by reversing one of the results. So that's what I do to kind of extend it, but I also like mess with the time scaling, and we might be able to mess with some of that later. I know that AC is not here today. He is out to be with family. So maybe it's appropriate we got Vic here, Cowboy Vic, because it's lawless country today.
It's the Wild
Uh,
West.
it's a wild west. Yeah, I'm all down to kind of mess around with some stuff today and see what you guys want to do. Because I definitely have gone through a whole bunch of characters with you guys. It's been a good time doing it. I'm gonna open up the black box really quick so that we're able to take a look at that and see what we got. And I'll leave this window open so that you guys can see. Uh, the black box is a place where you can submit things for me, like particularly characters, like from your prompts. Thank you for that, Kinky. And the prompts that I'm sorry, the characters inside of your prompts will pull them out and create fully like complete turnarounds of those characters. Um, and so if I load this up here right now, I'm basically just going to dig through here for a minute, and I'm going to leave this screen up for about 30 seconds or so. If you are one of the probably the 1% of people actually using the QR code, Kinky has linked it in the text so that you can easily just hop in and mess with and start submitting your characters and whatnot.
Yeah, and there's a
Um,
clickable link too, I think.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'll be back in about 30 seconds or so as I pick out a character to start, and I am also curious to see what you guys submit.
He says, I have a couple that I'm working on to submit to the black box. I got to get off my butt and finish the turnarounds. I feel you. I feel you, Lissy.
Yeah, the whenever you guys submit complete turnarounds, it makes my life a lot easier because I can just immediately start storytelling with them. You know what I mean? There's no real setup for that, so that's great. Um,
Mhm.
but in general, it's fine to submit even just a singular picture. It's just it won't really be too crazy accurate and stuff. Um, we should probably try to do a non-humanoid, but we have a couple of interesting submissions here. Um, and I'll be pulling them up in just a minute. So let's see. It's interesting how many Mad Hatters we got all at once because of Halloween. It's kind of kind of fun. Um, and I'll open up this guy too for
Interesting
for
to combine them all.
yeah, right, yeah. Like let's just see what all the Mad Hatters together look like. It's not too many of them. It's like three, but it's still interesting. Um, okay, cool. So what I'm gonna do is yeah, there's some really neat ones here. My wow. Okay, so let me open up this one here. Okay, all right. So just to kind of review, um, we have a this raccoon dude with the Mad Hatter kind of top for Halloween. Um, the this is a really cool prompt just because it mixes so much like live action elements. Like the hair looks great in it and all that, and I'm sure we'd be able to recreate some of that with and have it still be continuous and whatnot. Anytime you're working with a non-humanoid, in general, like let me just open this up a little bigger. Okay, whenever you're working with a non-humanoid, you kind of have to like decide whether or not um you're because at least in my experience so far with Midjourney is that you really want the shape to be something that could be easily silhouetted, right? So like there's a nice little like kind of shape to this character that could be that's probably pretty repeatable, but we want to really exaggerate that shape. There's it's lost in the darkness of his feet and whatnot, so we would have to him out of the background entirely in order to make this look exactly how it's shown here. And I say exactly, it's always going to be a little different, but um, it's this one might be a cool one just to see what the effects are that we get out of it. Um, this one here from MacLeod. This is Camda Lorna final. This is probably the cleanest bit of character art we've got here. I noticed that they removed the sword very kind of like quickly on here. So we might because it just kind of seems like a random prop right now. We might just remove the prop entirely. But this is probably the character we'll be messing with because I know that a lot of people wanna wanna mess around with like tuner and make stuff that is more evoking like America anime stuff, like Avatar and even I would say like Teen Titans and all that kind of stuff. MacLeod. Is it MacLeod? MacLeod? Yeah. It's I'm curious to see where and I'm sorry if I butcher y'all's names. It's my bad. But I have the I have the reading comprehension of a middle schooler. So dude, why do you always give me these freaking earworms? I gotta go listen. Okay, yeah, that you guys are sharing some music. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So at this point, I have one more, which is this. We haven't really done chibi characters yet. And I think this might be a really fun one to get into, really how far we can go with a non-humanoid character rather than the Mad Hatter at the beginning here. So this is an example of one that will require an extra step of removing it from the background and all that. While this one immediately lets me go, okay, there's plenty of options for me to immediately skip the step of pulling it out of the background and do that. So I think that this will be our second character we're streaming with today, and this one will be our first in order to kind of see how far we can take. It's also a humanoid shape, so it should be pretty easy for us. The cape will most likely be what I edit the most, and that will be to encourage a diversity in the results that is usable. We don't really know yet whether or not that cape is can be seen or understood easily. So let's just get into it. And if you guys have any questions at any point here, I will be leaving this Discord chat open so you guys can like chat with me and stuff, even if you don't see it, because I sometimes put focus in on certain things like this. I'll see what you're saying on the right side of my screen here. So um, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up Photoshop beta. You don't really need Photoshop beta. You could go ahead and just submit this in and see what happens. But I already know that I'm gonna want to clean up that cape where the sword was removed. So I will download this. Yep. I am working on a comic with and I really can't get into details on this. I am working on a comic with the mods of R-Comics, and essentially, there's some interesting changes that are going to be coming to Reddit here real soon, and they affect me directly. So I'm kind of trying to see what is the best way to approach some of these changes. So that's all I can get into about that right now. But I'm curious to see what we end up doing, and if they let me do all the wacky stuff that I want to do, particularly introducing AI personas to Reddit. And they're a lot of I can guarantee you right now the artists are gonna hate it. They're gonna absolutely hate the fact that that a lot of what we can do with AI is such a weird wildfire of potential. And I say wildfire in particular because sometimes you guys go nuts. Um, like I remember there was a prompt battle, I would say about 2 months ago, where the I forgot exactly what the premise was, but you guys invited me in because what is it? Because you made Victor the actual prompt subject for it. And what ended up
Yes.
happening, yeah, right. What ended up happening is that in roughly like 4 minutes, I had um I had like 80 pieces of fan art in less than 5 minutes. Um, and it was awesome. Like it was really cool to see, but at the same time, like I imagine a traditional artist being, experiencing that, and they're just like, oh no, like this is not what I want to see. Is just all of a sudden people dumping all this stuff on me. I encourage it because I think it's really interesting to see my character recontextualized in all sorts of different directions, especially with the stuff you guys think is cool.
That's
Um,
who you are as a person.
Right. But it is interesting how often they're not me. Like it's usually some ghoulish looking, no, some ghoulish cooking character, which I understand. I lean into the spooky. I get it, but like, it's always a step extra than what I'm aiming for usually. But the comic I have, okay. I will say that it may or may not include a Sailor Moon transformation sequence. It may or may not include a Sailor Moon transformation sequence. I'm
Oh.
I know. I really want to introduce Vicky, my gender bend, real bad, but I also know my gender bent version of Victor is going to be um interesting to see Reddit react to that. Well, I love Sailor Moon. It's been my jam since childhood, so I'm not mad about that. Yeah, see, like everyone loves Sailor Moon. May, m- Maybe not an AI user going nuts on Sailor Moon stuff and trying to combine my spooky character and her and them, but yeah, it's fun. Let's go ahead and get started here, though. Um, so at this point, what I want to do is Gen fill is like it. You could do this in Midjourney too. You just do in painting, or vary region. But I just want to clean up some of this cape here real quick and see what we get just off of not writing anything in the prompt. I'm doing image interrogation like constantly whenever I'm doing Photoshop beta. See, it just instantly did a great job. And I'll just cycle through the options here. There's like almost no point. It's just how deep do you want the shadow at the end of the cape? Yeah. So that's great. Um, but let's go ahead and like I said, I want to remove the prop that's in the hand because I worry that we could always ask for this prop later as opposed to starting with it. And that way we're able to be a little more dynamic with the character as opposed because there's a good chance that if we include this little teeny thing in its hand or in their hand, what's going to happen is there will always be some object in the hand. It may not be the sword or thing that you've included here, but it notices things like the fingers are missing and cut off behind an object, and then it'll go, okay, so other things need to be missing and cut off from behind the object there. I'm going to be using some over personified language like mid journey thinking or mid journey like mid journey believes or anything like any of these weird kind of phrases that I use that I'm sure bugs a bunch of the power users. Just know that I do that because I'm trying to convey like really complex subjects very broadly. There is some intention with it at least. But you can see as I cycle through here, I'm just picking basically a new thumb to use here, and there's I think what's probably best here is actually for me to highlight select just the fingertips and then go from there. Photoshop beta kind of has the opposite rules of midjourney when it comes to in painting. um, midjourney really benefits from having a larger area to select, and then you go, all right, give me a new hand, all right, give me a new face or whatever. I have learned that in Photoshop beta it's really important to just be very selective about what you're changing. You have to be aware of the shadows and things much more. But you can see I didn't really get a result that was usable here, so I'm going to write hand and see if we get anything else. It might. It very often gets very clip arty when I do this, so we'll see what happens. It made it like holding the hand with a hand. That's funny. Uh, all right, cool. Let's see here. Let's see what our other options are. Yep, it made it a hand holding a hand. They're all tiny little hands. Oh, that's funny. All right, let's go ahead and mute this. Um, I'll pop back down and I'll just pick a that. Yeah, let's just go with that. And then I'm going to do a little bit of manual cleanup on just the knuckles here and see if we can get away with that. Hi, Dima. Thank you for joining. So what we're doing here is we are taking this character and turning it into a complete turnaround, continuous turnaround, or at least try to. There's all sorts of little doodads and things that I'm currently in the process of removing in order to try to make it a little easier for Midjourney to understand what we're doing. And right now, it's Photoshop beta at least doesn't like the fact that I'm changing these knuckles around. So I'm gonna do it the old fashioned manual way and clean this up. Um, so if you go to the stage, you could click on my video feed, and you might be able to see it there. It's also Discord's kind of dumb for this. We complain about Discord a lot for this reason, but um, it's not really meant for what we're doing. It's a temporary thing until we get like you know until there's more dedicated stuff like maybe one day with the official website we can get some better supported like video streaming experiences for you guys. But for now, at least, we're just streaming directly to Discord here. Um, and so the only thing I'm really doing here is uh, is I am attempting to mimic any of the kind of line weight, because the line weight actually matters probably more than anything else. Is just making sure that the lines are believably the same like thickness. You could see as I fill in this area here, there's a little bit of too much darkness on this because now that line weight is too high on that. So I'll just grab a neighboring color and start filling in to try to what is it to bring that in, and just clean that up a little bit. You'll notice that this like neighboring grays, like neighboring colors are how you do color adjustment with AI generated images, because this is not the same gray from beginning to top on this image. If this was generated, I believe this was not fully generated. I believe this was probably edited by somebody. But and I'll be sure to check the actual black box notes to see what you guys wrote for this one. But the only thing I'm doing is trying to lower some of the complexity in a way that makes it a little bit easier for Midjourney to understand. So what I did here is just give it a little bit of a cleaner contrast between the finger and the knuckle here, just to kind of help us emphasize that we really want this to be a closed fist. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Um, and I'm gonna take out the little asymmetrical doodads are probably where I'm like, okay, that's I already know that's gonna be a little bit of a problem here. So these little like canisters here, which I mean, um, I don't really want to mention what those look like. I it yeah, I'm a it's always kind of funny to me whenever I see props that are supposed to be just kind of ambiguous sci-fi things where you're just like, oh, that's a tampon. Okay. Or just whatever. Like it's quite often that you'll see this in like movies and entertainment, that the prop that they end up picking is just like a spray painted common household item. Um, the I'm trying to remember. There's a famous prop that people reckon. I think it's from the original Alien movie, actually. That oh, that's right. The original Alien movie, you could see the zipper on the alien. That's right. It's kind of funny if you watch the original Alien movie. You can there's like, yeah, you have to watch the HD, or sorry, the remastered version where they like upscaled it for Blu-ray or whatever. But because they did that and they didn't like do any other corrections, like they didn't like change history for the release of it. What's really funny about it is, yeah, the alien zipper is like clear as day right in front of you. And it's yeah. Anytime I see that in sci-fi, it's always really funny. It's the equivalent to like a boom operator coming up in the shot. All right, so I'm gonna just fix this line a little bit down here, like so. And again, grab a neighboring color and just kind of making that work pixel by pixel. You'll notice that the more you zoom into Photoshop, your grid actually becomes, visible. And this is really useful for AI imagery because you can see the gradient changes a lot more effectively this way. So I can go, okay, I need to fix this little part there. Okay, cool. There's a little bit more I could do, but I would rather just keep it as it is. Okay, cool. And like I said, I might have to remove the cape, but we'll stick with this for now, and we're gonna see how far this will take us. Um, and we will need to describe the character and see what kind of comes out of that. Um, and just kind of go from there. So, all right, let me flatten this sucker down here. I'm just glad that I ate a sandwich today before streaming. I have the very bad mistake of forgetting to eat. Um, because I am constantly juggling like 8 different projects in my head. So yeah, I'm glad I did that today at least. Okay, cool. So I'm basically just gonna highlight select as close as I can to the character here. I'm gonna get rid of a little bit of the head here. And we'll just cut this one a little closer. And the only real reason to do this is just because the any excess negative space that is inside of your images, whether that be an alpha channel or a white background like this, it's going to affect your injections. And I'll explain that here in a sec. But essentially, like if you want a character very far away, you can actually just make so much more negative space around the character and then submit that to Discord for a link. But for what we're doing here, we're going to immediately hop back over to VC Create here, and I'll do this inside of VC Create so that you guys can see this process in action here. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the image here, and then I'm first just going to write a slash describe on it, and we're going to see what we get out of it. Slash describe is going to interrogate your image and try to figure it out. It tells us a lot of really useful info. But and I'm just gonna hit imagine all here. But that info is oftentimes like a little corrupting of what our intention is, and the reason why that is, at least in my opinion, is because slash describe is not actually referring to Midjourney's internal library. It's a little bit of a misconception of that. I'm not sure if that will change, but basically it's a third party service that's kind of analyzing your imagery and then guessing at the results. So if it works anything like the clip interrogator from Hugging Face, it could very well be the same service. Who knows? It's actually referring to like stable diffusion and other other services in terms of like the actual words that are being laid here. So I've seen that miscommunication already done before, where it will say things like here I'll mute this really quick so you guys can see. Um, there you go. It'll say things like Charles Robinson and have other artists that are linked here. That doesn't necessarily mean that Midjourney is referring to them. It's just that's what the slash describe is referring to. So it I guess the misconception is that this is looking into the brains or the database of Midjourney when it's not. So this is going to get us immediately an idea of what Midjourney, wants out of it, like or sees out of this stuff. And keep in mind, we have to refer to the character here always. Like that's why it's good to have these kind of side by sides here. You notice that there's no face in the style in this one. We notice that we have like I think the top right one's pretty close. Um, but let's look. Okay, yeah, and this one's probably the closest in style. I like that a lot. And then we have here, which is quite easily the most accurate in terms of the cape and body form here. Um, so what I'm gonna do is just for testing, we're going to upres the first one, or sorry, the fourth one and the second one on this one. Let's upres the let's see here. Um yeah, I'm going to say upres the first one on this one. The thing is the problem with this is that when we do our injection, the next step here, um things like hair color actually matter a lot. Because I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this. I'll pop myself open into what is it into this window here really quick because I need to show you guys how like the importance of silhouettes in animation and cartooning. Um, because that's largely what we're recreating here is we're trying to say, all right, um, how not only how recognized is your character, but how well does Midjourney recognize it, right? And the thing is that out of the characters that are shown here, like I'll open this up here. Out of these characters, which ones can you recognize? And it's probably all of them. You know what I mean? Like I recognize all of them. Um, but the main thing is that these silhouettes are one that's how trademark works. It's just people like hyper like okay, we need something that everyone's going to recognize and this is our own property, right? So there you go, trademark. But the thing is that when you look at AI imagery on the other hand, that um every color kind of acts like a silhouette and these shapes are so heavy inside of what we're doing that we can actually affect the imagery more quite heavily just with injecting a picture. So when I now mute this, uh there you go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the URL from this picture and we and I'll also upres. Yeah, you guys are already doing it. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and hit variation strong and then paste the image and hit submit. I'm gonna do this on everyone where there's a clear woman's face in the video, in it, because we haven't edited anything from the prompt yet. It'll most likely not look like the character completely, but it will give us a a little preview here of the results, and I can see our first one here. Very cool. Like let me just try to get these to open up side by side here. Okay. So we have our original image on the top, and then we have our first derivatives here. Um, and these are partial derivatives because I haven't edited anything about the prompt, but you could see just how close we already get just off of the default results. You know, her hair, again, is being affected by the original prompt that we're injecting into, but her top is slowly becoming like the top in the image. And we can see what some other results are here. And you could see
Uh,
that it's, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I love how the original style of the first one kind of reminds me of that cartoon Gargoyles from the
Oh,
90s.
I love gargoyles. I love
Yes.
gargoyles. My wife is a big old fan of gargoyles. We have a like I think she has a hoodie from the gargoyle that's like just of the cartoon show. It's great.
I'm jealous.
All right. So I guess the thing that uh that we're mostly looking for here is which one gave us the best results. So we have one last one here. And when I say best results, we have to remember what our intention is here. Our intention is not to look for the best quality or prettiest image or anything like that. Our intention here is to try to mimic the results that we had, from the original, because the closer we can get off of these initial results, the more, or even just mixing and matching these, the more likely that we're going to end up with something that is repeatable or usable, um, you know, uh, continuously. What I'm glad is that it's able to interpret the cape no problem with this. It does have a little bit extra length, like a lot of these capes are way too long, but that's fine. It's really easy to cut down a cape. It's a little harder to add to it, so that's a good problem to have. But you could see that it added like lightning to all these girls here. It's pretty awesome to see. Um, but let's go ahead and start refining the prompt here so that we can do an injection that's a little more accurate. So you'll notice that it has all sorts of inferences. Like like it says on this very last one, it says something about a red cape, like right off the bat. We're like, there's no red cape, so we're gonna use our monkey brains here and try to decipher this text here. So we copy and paste, and then I'm going to do a female character with and I'm not even going to write character. I'm just going to say instead of a female character, I'm going to write her, and then dark cape. So it says in the style of gray and light emerald. I'm gonna keep that because that's pretty accurate. I have a habit of removing proper names because I just don't like what they do. And then all the other tidbits. Crowcore. I like Crowcore a lot. That's a pretty cool aesthetic. Aurora Punk. And yeah, we'll just keep that there. The thing is, there's no gold. I mean, we have little dangly bits. I'm just gonna get rid of the and gold from here as well. Let's look at some of the other ones here. So, a woman wearing a cape with her arms up in the air and her hands touching her face. Um, yeah, I mean, one hand's up in the air, but I'm not gonna worry about direction just yet. Um, Another one that says in the style of dark gray and light emerald. That's probably just kind of a theming, right? That you oftentimes see in color palettes. Dragon Core. Okay, we'll add Dragon Core to the list. I love how this is like kind of like just arbitrary fantasy land. Like we're just combining all sorts of wacky aesthetics when it comes to the names. But they have their reasons why they exist. So, and it says exaggerated proportions. I don't think those are exaggerated. I'm just gonna leave it as is. And then another one with the cape and the hands up in the air. Bah. You'll notice this phrase come up in my streams a lot, and it's because we're doing character art here. Commissioned for. this is probably DeviantArt metadata. Where like every time that you like submitted a hand drawn like character art that you were commissioned for this person that you like tagged their name or whatever. It's such a common phrase that now it's like a prompt trigger in order to make stuff that kind of looks like someone ordered it for commission. So it's not a surprise that this comes up often on my streams, but it's one of the ones that when the more I explain it, the more upsetting people it is for some people. So I'm not going to dive too deep into that. Even things like bold character design, like that sounds like something that an executive producer would say that make it pop, or like like it just it makes no sense in reality. The But a bold character design is probably just a high contrast to the background. So little things like that you'll learn as you mess around with this stuff. But this list is pretty good right off the bat. And we might get some benefit by switching to Niji as well, because of the line art that's inside of the original image here. But I'm just gonna work off of this, uh, and then we'll see what we get. So slash imagine, and then I'm gonna say AR23, which is aspect ratio 23. I'm sorry that sometimes stuff on my screen can be pretty small. I have 3 different programs, sometimes 4, running in tandem. So I try my best to kind of make sure all that stuff is visible. Um, and what we're essentially going to do is take a look at this and compare it to the image above and see what repeating elements we want to get rid of. And so I'm seeing a lot of hoods on this image here. There's 2 of them immediately that have hoods, and the original has no hood, and we need to start describing her. A woman in a black. This is from Lizzie. A woman in a black costume holding a magical small pen in the style of 2D game art, dark gray green cushion empire, anime inspired character design, gold aquamarine superheroes full body. What a mouthful. But yes, look at that. It's already super close. You know what I mean? Like she did a great job digging into that. So we might be able to skip some of what I was doing here, but I do want to show you guys something, which is you can oftentimes reduce the results to make it a little more usable for yourself. So with this one, we want to say hyphen hyphen no hood at the back and see what the results are after that. It might encourage what we want. But I do know that when it comes to the no command, it's very often you can like end up in a place where you're like, oh no, I'm in weirdo land at this point. And you can see, yep, there's no more hoods on any of the characters. We even have some kind of fun cape designs that popped up. But well, the I need to start emphasizing parts of the character here. So let's go ahead and describe her as a we'll say no hood again at the end there. And then I'm going to say that she is a dark long hair, and let's see. If I write magical girl, it's amazing how much that just suddenly animates everything into chibi stuff. But let's go ahead and say like dark pants, just to give us a little bit of direction in that regard too, because I'm noticing a lot of them are very revealing around the thighs. It's very common with AI bias that you're going to get some real sexy ladies. It's just how it goes. But AI bias is something that we have to be like very consciously aware of whenever we're doing this stuff, because at least in my tutorial, I have an example of this, and I won't like load it up right away. I'm just gonna hop back and leave chat open here. Um, the thing is that when I did my tutorial, I had uh the prompts were like blonde girl running late to school, and the thing is that the calling someone a blonde has the unfortunate stereotype that you're stupid or that you're dim-witted or whatever. This is not true necessarily, like even outside of the United States and stuff, but it's true like in general that people will, it's a dumb joke. It's a dumb joke from the boomers. But the thing is that bias is visible. Whenever I prompt a blonde woman, it'll make her kind of like questioning or confused or otherwise like duh? Yeah. It's like the character looks like if they take an extra second to process all the information that compared to the other characters. Um, this is a form of AI bias in action, at least in my opinion. Um, there's all sorts of them. They're all over the place. But the most interesting thing to me about it is I'm going to pull up a trope here. It is a trope in anime and specifically, and it's called idiot hair. Uh, idiot hair is something you'll commonly see in animes where a single hair sticks up, right? And there's a couple of American parallels for this, but the thing is that idiot hair, it translated the idea of a blonde, a blonde woman, right? But the unfortunate stereotype that it's dim-witted, and it translated that into idiot hair for the character because it because of course it did, because AI makes the weirdest connections. And it's in my comic. You can see that when she gets spooked, she gets idiot hair, and it's great. So it's like alfalfa, yeah, yeah. Um, it is certainly true that these are inferred things. I don't have any way to confirm them, right? I just see patterns, and those patterns I abuse. At least I repeat on repeat. I do. Um, so it's important to just kind of emphasize that we have to recognize the AI bias here. But let's open back up here. Um, let's see here. Okay. Yeah, opening up random windows. There we go. Okay. VC create. Let's take a look at what we got. See. Okay. Yep. All right. So this is the her long hair, dark long hair prompt, and there's a couple other injections that people have done here already. But yeah, right off the bat, Buck to Unicorn, he did a pretty like that. That's a pretty awesome like little job you did here, honestly, because we have the cape, we have like certain elements that may work for this. Um, and but it doesn't have like the armor or the body form in that regard. Like there's a little bit of cleavage and stuff we want to show as well. So we basically need to find the one that's the closest. And oh, these are all injected. Hold on, let me get hop back over here. Let's see what my kind of original prompt here kind of gave us. I think the first one might actually be pretty spot on for what we want to do. The gloves are going to add a silhouette element to it, so we'll see what that does. And we don't want to do anime. I'm going to avoid anime for now. So let's just inject into those and see what we get as well. So first one, paste the link, submit, and third one, paste the link, submit. And with this one as well, I'm gonna do it even though I just said I wasn't gonna do anime. This one is close enough. I think I just want to see what the results of these ones are, since someone already upres them. And this one is from Lizzie, and that's like super spot on. I mean, Midjourney is going to have some restrictions to like um what do you call it, to certain like anatomy, right? But it you could always paint that in afterward. Not a big deal to be missing the cleavage and stuff there. But this one, you got it. Like there's a gem in the middle of it, but you could easily in paint that out. The thing is what we're essentially looking for here is if we can get it in Midjourney to look good, we can actually exploit that and to make them into complete turnarounds. There's some really fun ones here, actually. We're basically just trying to find the one that's closest. So these are all from you guys, by the way. I'm mostly looking at the art style, right? As well as it following the rules. I think this bottom right one's actually pretty, pretty rad. I'm gonna upres that one. Um, this was my first injection here, and I think actually, wow, that first one is pretty spot on. Again, this is the one where I said that the sleeves were going to affect the character model, and it did. Look at how it flayed out the sleeves here. Um, Let me open that up so you guys can see. See what it did with the sleeves? It brought them all open, made them all bigger. While if we compare it to the original here, it's kind of like clean to the wrist. So I'll upres only one of those. Yeah, I would say that the first one's pretty cool, pretty close. But it's again, we're getting a lot of big collars and stuff. But this third one I like. Sorry, the fourth one here. You know what? Let's do the third one too. I know that I'm upresing a lot because we're trying to kind of explore this character real quick, but you could see that some people are already starting. Let's see here. Senior Carlos is already starting to do image blends where he mixes a bunch of them together to try to create a median between them all. This is a little bit of a crapshoot way to do it. We are going to make some proper turnarounds here. Fine to do image blends, but the reliability of them is a little tough, and that's where you just shove a bunch of images inside of a single prompt and hope for the best. Um, and you can see Lizzie is getting us closer to some live action stuff as well. Um, and yeah, I think that let's see here. We're anytime you have little doodads, right, like the belts and all that stuff, it's going to add all sorts of interesting, but also odd doodads everywhere else. So I'm going to say the second one on here. Okay, that should be more than enough for what we need to do next. Okay. Um, Essentially, what I'm going to do is close out all these windows because there's way too many windows on my screen here. And I'm just going to open up all the full res ones that I can. Because what we're going to end up doing is we're going to have them all inside of Photoshop so that we are able to decipher what we like and what we don't and all that stuff. Okay, that should be more than enough. And then we'll try to set a slash tune for this sort of art style and see what we can get out of that too. Because that's the newest step, the newest part of this workflow for me is slash tune. It lets us be able to restrict the results of Midjourney to only be a specific medium or whatever, and seeing that in action is pretty neat. But inside of Photoshop here, I am just going to expand the canvas out and see what we get. Nice and big, just like that. Okay. So now I will copy these and I'm going to just put them around it because my goal with this is not necessarily, it's kind of like a vision board at this point more than a character turnaround because the character has certain complexities that we are really trying to determine whether or not we can even repeat these complexities. Um, so I'm just copying every one of the upreses that we saw, or at least that I quickly pulled from here. And we are going to essentially try to build a second pose for the character here based off of the art that's here. You can notice that she always has a bit of a glowy bit in like her right hand, while the other one, that's because the images are based off of this one here. Okay, we only got a couple more here. I highly recommend that you do not upres the images beyond the default amount. There's no reason to go that high resolution with these images. They are going to get arbitrarily upscaled by something anyway, so it's Not that you can actually have some pretty low res images and it works fine, but overall, I just would recommend um, just not working with crazy big images because otherwise it's a when we get to the next stage here, it could be a little overwhelming. So um, there we go. We have all these here, and now I'm just going to compare them to try to get us a different pose of the main one here. And um, I would say that the two that are the best candidates, I would say there's three best candidates here. Maybe a fourth one here, but I'm going to drop these down here. And the reason why I say these are the best is because they're capturing as much of the color silhouettes as possible inside of the original image here. Um, we could always cut down the capes, but you'll notice that this one doesn't even have a cape. It's just here. I'll open this up closer so you guys can see. There isn't even a cape on this one. It's actually more like a dress. So this one rejected. These are the two that I'm kind of leaning on right now to get us a second pose for this here. Um, I'm going to be doing something that I prefer doing it this way, which is to use Photoshop Beta to bring back continuity. And if we restrict the canvas to just the ones that we know work, we can actually rely entirely on in painting to do this. But I'm going to say that these are the two to go with for now. You'll notice that Carlos actually just prompted female superhero in cape, right arm up and out, holding orb, posing with the hand out. I love anything with orbs. I'll say that right off the bat. But you'll notice you said superhero, right? Particularly female superhero. You shouldn't be surprised that they look like Superman, right? That's just from oversampling of the idea of a superhero, and it's just up, and away, and is it a bird? Is it a plane? It's there, it's Superman. That oversampling is clearly apparent in here. If you start to recognize IP because of that, that's where you go, okay, superhero's too strong. You know what I mean? Um, and who knows? There might be even a villain. Who knows what this character is yet? So at this point, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to reintroduce the color silhouettes into the other results here, as well as remove anything that doesn't match the character design. This is really easy to do with Photoshop Beta. Just restrict the canvas. So I'm just going to bring that all in here. Anything inside of your canvas will be used to reference when you're doing in painting. And so, at least for me, what I do know is like, okay, did way too much thigh on there? We might be able to get away with just removing that stuff and having it be like this, because you'll notice that there's this like kind of cape-like design in between the legs. Probably the biggest negative from this design is the fact that there's this weird cape thing in front of, like, I would say like uh I forgot what you would call that. It's some sort of royalty thing that basically says how important you are. If I would be doing previs and I wanted to make this very dynamic, I would get rid of this whole crotch thing entirely because it's a little bit distracting from what we're doing. But I'm gonna see if I can at least with image weights force it on these two images to try to replicate some of that, and we can always introduce it manually too. So let me first find these two inside of Discord here. So let me make sure I got both windows open here. There we go. All right, so that's one of them here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hit variation subtle, scroll up to the back of it, hit image hyphen, and then type IW2 space 2. What this is going to do is it's going to overly focus on the image injection. That's part of the prompt there. And it will start to force it to match the image that we injected. This is pretty bad if you are trying to like get anatomy to look right. But let's also do it on the other image that we have here. Just a moment. There it is. We'll do variation subtle, scroll through, and then add an image weight of 2 to that. You can also do this when you're doing the initial injection. You kind of get better results too. But let's take a look at what we got. Oh, that one's still rendering. Hold on. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You'll notice that the colors are a lot closer to the original right off the bat. Like there's benefit from using a higher image weight, but the most common thing for me is the hands get all screwy. Um, it doesn't really know what that is, but it started to recreate some of that, like that I'm gonna call it a crotch flap. I'm sorry, I'm gonna call it the crotch flap. The it's let's we'll in paint a better solution for that later. But if we compare that now to the Photoshop one, like the one that we didn't do the image weight on versus the one that we did, you'll notice that the doodads kind of start to disappear because we don't have a ton of doodads in the original image. So it might be more useful for us to work off of this higher image weighted version. So let's go ahead and upres the second one here. This one has a chaos of 15 applied in order to really get some interesting diversity from here. So that's pretty cool. This is the second one with the high image weight. This one is again, I think it is functional, but we're going to need to look for the one that's the closest. Um, let's see. Let me scroll back up here on my Photoshop stuff here. Okay. I would say that the first one's actually the closest because we can easily recreate the kind of green to gray belly split that's here. Yeah, and it has a good belt. I think that the first one here is solid. So let's go ahead and upres that. And I see that there's plenty others that people have done. And I may not get to include all of what you guys are doing. There's a lot of ladies in capes. So we'll see what we get. Um, and it's pretty common for you guys to pick different options than me. That's actually part of the joy and the fun for me. Is just seeing you guys go nuts and do your own things. So feel free to prompt inside of VC Create and do your own thing. Mm. All right. So at this point, I am now going to come into Photoshop here, and I'm going to see just how much better these comparisons are so that you guys can see what image weight really does. Because this is the best way to do it. It's just to do a variation subtle so that you can see the differences here. I'll expand the canvas out a little more. Alrighty. So if I now look at this more closely, I first want you guys to compare these two here. Look how much closer we got on our intention here. The skin tone's a lot closer. The color differences, like the color separations, are closer. Um, I believe even her knee pads are closer with nice clean lines. That's the power of doing a high image weight. And whenever I'm working with a traditional artist, I usually end up pumping up that number pretty high because their intention is to get as close to their original art as possible. While an AI user who's just kind of exploring around with images, they may want to just introduce tons of diversity, right, into what they're doing. So, um, depending on your intent, we'll decide whether or not this is a good thing or bad thing for what you're doing. But you can notice what it did with the hands. It's the little bit thinner, a little more daintier hands, and the hands just kind of thicken up a bit, and that has to do with also the image weights. Um, this one is again another one where you can compare left to right. The left side is without a high image weight. The right side's with a high image weight. And it starts to, incorporate some parts of the image, but we're also losing some parts as well. Sorry, we're also losing some of our definition or shape here. Yeah. So I'm just gonna stick with the high image weights ones because I think that they'll get us something good to work with. So this one and this one. Let's mute the other two. All right. That gets us 3 poses for this character. Now, these 2 poses are not very diverse, and frankly, I'll probably end up getting rid of one of them just because like you really don't need too many face front poses. But it is good to be able to get the diversity of the silhouettes and the thighs and all that stuff. So, let's bring these down to scale. Try to get them to match the reference image here just a little bit. Yeah, yeah, that should be good enough. By the way, you could in Photoshop Beta, you could just go to View, Rulers, drag a ruler down, and make sure the heads are at the same height. That's you don't have to do this, by the way. It's nice for a good clean sheet, right? So I'll just quickly adjust the heights to the ruler, drag it back down to the bottom of the feet, and see how close they are. Yep, they're all meeting at the heels. That's good enough. Okay, cool. Sweet. And you guys are already going nuts and doing stuff. I am excited to kind of dig into, Victorian sorceresses and all this stuff that Brandon Mack's getting into. Um, but the next thing we need to do is we need to start introducing some elements of each image from the original into the new ones. So what we can do is just do some real simple color for now. We really don't need to go too hard on this. So I'm just going to select that gray and and just start to remove details that, like, for example, here, this is the easiest one for us to do right now. Let's see how it is with the belt line. The belt line, it starts it starts right above the belt line. So for now, we're going to allow for some deviation and start just quickly selecting the dark area here, like so. Wherever we actually, that we don't need it below. So we're just going to do all the tops here. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's why I'm just using the polygonal selection tool, because I don't really need to be too considerate of too much accuracy. We're just trying to get silhouettes to be in the right places. Color silhouettes anyway. And I'm just going to paste that on top. Just something that gets us closer to our intent here. She doesn't have golden braces on the top here. So maybe Photoshop Beta will let me do this. This is a very risky thing for Photoshop Beta. They really don't like it when you do this. So I'm just gonna see if I can change her the line here so that all that gold's gone. But I might just delete it and do it manually. There's a very good chance Photoshop Beta is just gonna yell at me right now. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Don't do that. Oh, it did it. That's surprising. And the reason I'm showing this to you guys before we get into like zooming and panning and doing all the other fun stuff inside of Midjourney, the reason I'm showing you this is because look at this. Because I have these lined up all cleanly and I have a reference next to it, it referred to that reference. So let's see the 3 other options. It just changed the blouse line. Isn't that great? Very cool to see, actually. And so the thing is that it interpreted. You see how the it goes over the breast? It interpreted that as a golden line here. So I'm going to go over that golden line and just start bringing this in. The reason I'm doing this manually, guys, and I'll get into all the fun stuff you guys are getting into inside of VC Create here. But the reason I'm doing this manually is because it gives me the best results for being able to make them continuous later. Because I know that I have confirmed these things. The real gamble that you take by doing this is that you have no idea how functional this image is for your goals until you're done with it, right? You'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. But I like to do this because it gives me a good idea of like, okay, so the neck comes into here, has a bit of a high collar. let's see if we're able to recreate that here. We have a high collar, a little too high actually, but there's no like neck jewel or anything like that on there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select this and see if it'll just refer to the other image nearby it. And that's done again by just not writing anything when you're prompting, when you're doing the Photoshop beta stuff.
Looks so good.
Yeah, right. Isn't that impressive? It just brought it
Seriously.
in. It brought it in immediately. It's no longer do we have this cringy anime cape, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And we suddenly have one that's a lot closer. But we could cycle
Yeah.
through here. Look at that. This is more like a unfortunate collarbone there. But I want to compare these two here and see which one's closer. Is it the first one or is it the second one here? Yes, it's the second one, I think, because if I go to the first one, it kind of makes it this like almost like like
Yeah.
when you in the airplane, like when they give you the oh, sorry, when you get little neck pillow and they look like donuts. It kind of looks like she's
Mhm.
wearing one of those.
On the first
So
one, it's more similar. Her head's just coming down over it from the angle you're looking at.
right, yeah. I'll go with this one for now. There's a little bit of weird
Yeah.
cleavage shading, but it's all good. It's all good.
I meant the
Um,
one that you said.
oh yeah, okay. Um, let's see. And I'll just do a quick confirmation of that real quick. You know what? I'm just gonna go with the one that kind of looks like the airport, or just because like it might give us a little bit cleaner results because I didn't like how it did the cleavage line. So okay, we have some basics in here, but now let's see if we're able to because I really don't think we're gonna get that centerpiece that I called the crotch flap. I don't think we're gonna get that generated, right? So instead, I am just gonna copy it and bring it over to the other image because it is simple enough that we could just take advantage of that. And this is something that I would say Midjourney is not doing right now. You can't like superimpose parts to images or photo bash images like you can with standard Photoshop here. But you'll notice that I'm also missing that kind of like emblem on the belt here. So I'm just gonna copy that over. Screw it. Let's get that all in there. Okay. Copy. Paste. Auto select. Okay. There we go. And you'll notice that it immediately we have to do some cleanup because there's like white highlight here. Turn off contiguous, delete. Turn it back on. Okay. So the main thing I want to emphasize here is that when you're doing this, you really need to make sure the images are unique, right? If I just copy and paste this flap thing that's here, and they're the same angle, it is more likely going to give us the exact same like draping fabric and stuff. So I come in manually, and the first thing we're gonna do is make sure that the belt buckle thing is in the middle, something like that here. And then, at least how I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna go to warp, and I'm just gonna warp that uh, that drapery bit here to be a little more unique, to kind of bring it in here. See, something like that. And I love messing with warp because it lets us be able to make fabrics and stuff more dynamic and let us see textures a little better or a little bigger. So I'm going to go with something like this. And then I'm going to do a selective warp as well, just to get us a little bit cleaner with the line here. What I mean by that is I'm only selecting part of the image, And then you have to be kind of a little bit careful with this because you can easily warp things out of perspective or whatever. But I'm going to do another transform here. And if I was really advanced about it, I would use puppet transform. But for this, it's fine. I'm going to just do warp. And then I'm going to bring that edge in a little bit here. Bring it back up. And I'm just trying to match the other side of it. Yeah, that should be good. And that's pretty good. I don't really see any issues with that. Cool. And you'll notice that the hands are a little hidden in the silhouette of the cape. The hands themselves in this original prompt here looks like she kind of has like almost like robot arms. Um, we can emphasize some of the darkness, like the dark green, but it seems to basically be the same color as the gray. So we'll call that the intent of the image here. And that means that I need to get rid of the gray in the cape here. So I'm just going to use quick select and start deselecting everything that isn't the cape. Reselect the cape. Okay. And make sure that we got the arms nice and separated. Head separated. You'll notice that with object select, it's very easy to over select or to under select specific parts of it. It actually has a memory to it. So the more unique areas you end up selecting in here, the more likely that it will give you a marquee line that you actually want. So I can like keep coming into here and deselecting parts of the background or whatever. And then I'll get into the stuff that you guys have been prompting because there's a lot of cool stuff I can already tell that you guys have gotten into. It also will show me some interesting the reason why I'm doing this because I already see one. But let me get into here. Clean up this hip a little bit. Come into there. I'm just doing a very rough here, just because we really don't need that much accuracy in this regard. We just need to get to the point where the hand here. Let's just marquee this one manually. Oops. Forgot that I am cutting out of an area here, not adding to it. Okay. And finish up the hand selection here. Just making sure I select everything that isn't the cape. Okay. Yeah, it should be pretty good. And in the original image here, we could take a look. The front side is gray. The outside is green, while the front is the inside is gray. Outside green, front gray. Wow, I can't talk today. Yeah. Outside green, inside gray. So
Words can be hard.
Yeah, I know, right? They're tough. I'm gonna just come into here and start deselecting what we know needs to be green, which is basically everything on the outside of this. Let's just go ahead and go with this for now. It's really easy when it's things like this where the green and the fold of the arm just kind of come together there. So I could just deselect all of that. We have a little more. Probably down here. Yeah. Get that emerald look to come back. Okay, Cool. Alrighty. So at this point, I'll probably end up deleting that odd bit that's on the corner there. But what we can do is we can actually just find the original image here. And I am going to first copy it because I'm going to be making a permanent change to it. I am going to go into image, adjustment, hue and saturation, and I'm going to drop the saturation completely. This will make it so that it's real gray. There's no color in it anymore. The thing is that if you just do this, you're probably not going to be too accurate because you can actually see that accuracy when we actually do the adjustments on levels now. And if I bring it up to something kind of close to the same brightness, the lights are wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and just highlight, select the color for the highlight inside the cape, add a new layer and paste it. And then with the blending mode, I will bring that back in. So we could probably do color and get away with it, but I'm going to go with, let's say, let's drop the opacity of screen here. Drop that about right there. It should be pretty good. And we could make it absolutely accurate by just selecting and seeing how much the color values change. But for now, it is super close, just off of my eye. Should be good enough. Okay. Let's compare the faces really quick. She has large emerald eyes, also large emerald eyes. The different art styles are going to clash a little bit here, but I'm going to say this is mostly good enough. I'm just going to get rid of the background now, and we'll work off of these two poses because even just two poses helps a ton for what we're doing. So there we go. And then in this one, I am going to just do a quick marquee select on this one here. I want to make sure contiguous is not on for doing things like hair and everything else because there's subtle blue tones and things that are going to show up in like the skin and highlights, and we don't want to accidentally delete those. Oops. All right. That's good enough. So at this point, I'm going to collapse this all down like so. We have the other pose to mess with if we want, but I'm not going to torture you guys by having to watch me do that all over again. We're going to work with just the two of them here and make sure that we have a white background. You can use an alpha channel, but man, are the results weird. Um, just, just giving you a heads up on that. And I'll go ahead and make the canvas a little bit bigger and bring this lady to the right here real quick. You'll notice though, we have one major continuity error that's here. And it's the fact that there's always these big capes. Like we're going to get a lot of big capes. And some of the results that you guys are making right now don't have big capes. But I want to encourage smaller capes on this. I do think that this will make way too much of a cape. So I'm just going to kind of come into here. And I'm actually going to see what Photoshop Beta does on its own. Just to see what this does. It'll most likely refer too much to the cape at the other end of the canvas. But I'm going to see what it do. What it's going to do. Let's compare the smallest one here to the large, and it's already getting us closer. But this one's much closer, I think. Let's try to get it to ignore this weird new leg that we got, and I'll replace that with white so that we can see. You can see this is where I end up wasting a lot of time because I end up like cleaning his stuff up and then completely removing everything I cleaned, or at least a large section of what I just cleaned up, um, just off of quick in paints and stuff. There we go. I'm gonna have to hit fire to Brandon once there because he managed to get the front flap looking good. All right, let's take a look at this one up close.
So I'm getting a little report or two about people who can't hear us on the stage. Just let me check that out, okay?
Yeah, yeah, please do. If you're running into any issues, Leah, let us know. But you can see here, we got it. We got it in terms of like the shorter cape. It's a little more controlled. I think that this will give us a better result. The last bit that we didn't really get too concerned about is the little gold triangles up on the top here and the knee pads. There is some golden knee pad element that's here. I'm going to say that for most of y'all's projects, this is probably more than enough for what we want to do. But you know, and it also helps us kind of get to the stream a little quicker. So I'm going to now select this one here, copy it, and then paste it into Discord. Okay. Now we have two URLs, one of this and the other of this. I'm going to copy, hit /imagine, paste the two URLs side by side, making sure that there's a space in between them. And then I'm going to take one of the prompts that from you guys that you've been having a lot of fun with here. There's some really cool results. You guys have been, slowly crafting the words necessary to make these. So now I can actually just reap off of your all's hard work and start copying some of the results here. And in terms of the codes and the anime stuff and whatnot, we'll get there. But for now, I'm going to just copy the text from some of these here, paste that after the URLs, and then we could already mess with image weights, we could already mess with a bunch of codes, but I'm just going to give you guys the results as is first. But here's the thing. We already know what we want from this. We don't want to blend. We don't want to merge these two images together. We want to actually create a turnaround, right? So I'll submit this, but let's actually copy the text from it. And we could, at this point, determine like if there's a hard line for what art style you're aiming for. Like we could aim for like, Nickelodeon or anything like that. Like early 2000s, late 90s Nickelodeon or whatever. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the front of the prompt, full body turnaround. And I've noticed that some people get better results also with complete full body turnaround. But understand that the more words you add here, the less diversity you actually get. So I'm just going to do full body turnaround. And if that's not enough, like if that's something that gives us limited results, changing your aspect ratio really helps. So instead of 2:3, which is like a portrait, let's go for 2:1, which is good, like an ultra wide, and we might more likely get what we're looking for. Okay, cool. Let's see what so Lizzie is already starting to zoom out and do some cool stuff with hers. Like very cool to start seeing an inexperienced person who's been doing what I've been doing for a while now. Going ham and zooming and panning and doing all that stuff. Look, she even got like the backside of her. Look at that. It doesn't have a cape, but it might be useful to have later because people don't wear capes perpetually. You kind of want and frankly, if you were going to do like a really a really dynamic character that needs to like change outfits and stuff, you probably want to start with a base model that if like, for example, if you're doing a story that's in like the bitter winter of Canada, are they always going to be wearing their winter coat? No, they're going to go inside and be warm, right? So you probably want to start with the one with the least amount of clothes, the least amount of whatever, because that's going to get you a good base model to then say like, all right, throw a cape on this person, whatever. But you could see with the ultra wides though, we didn't get the full body turnaround. We got like all sorts of wacky sorcery stuff, right? And that's because of the prompt. But what I can do though is I can refresh this, and I'm going to put a separate prompt by putting colon colon afterward, or like between full body turnaround and the rest of the prompt. And let's just put that to like 10. Let's just see what happens when we like max. We're not maxing out anything, but when we get real high on those numbers. The idea that we're trying to emphasize here is we're trying to force it to give us a multiple pose. Yeah, like this. Look at this. A multi pose sheet. The thing is that we may or may not get the angles we need. We may or may not get the silhouette we need. There's definitely some Tomb Raider vibes coming out of this here. But you notice that almost all of the rest of the prompt is missing because of how much weight I added to full body turnaround. So what I'm going to do is just slowly drop this number. Let's go. Actually, I'm not even going to go slow. I'm just going to go 3, and we'll see what happens. We didn't describe bodysuit, long cape. Yeah, long hair. All right. Let's see what some of the Brandon stuff that he's doing here. Very cool. But here's why I did the Photoshop stuff. Okay. The tropes, man. It's the tropes. A sorceress has to have, okay, I guess a sorceress has to have a gem at her chest. That is her power source. That power source is not a rule that we determined. That is AI bias in action. And by using my strong image weights, her cleavage remains, but it's not replaced by a gem later because we're not prompting for sorceresses. We're just trying to make a turnaround here off of images. And we got some pretty cool results off of this third one here. I think this one might work. It'd be just because it gets us a back, doesn't get us too much profile. Ooh, this one's also good. But we're essentially looking at silhouettes here. Okay. Um, so I'm just going to grab our 2 URLs again. Because you can see when we did a blend of the two, it again diverges away from the main character. It has all sorts of different styles that get applied because that's what blends do. They tend to just bring a bunch of things together and then find the medians between the images. We don't want to do that. We want to find an image that we can inject into. And that's why the character continuity stuff on the Photoshop side is so important. Because now I can come into here and just do variation, paste both images, and submit. Variation, paste both images, submit. And the reason why this is going to work is because we are doing a variation strong by default. Variation strong is basically just going to be the best of both worlds. It's going to bring the image a lot closer, but it's also going to get us a potentially different angles here. And we're getting there, but we really need to try to force this to get us a turnaround. And I don't really want to have faded versions of the characters in the background, but that's fine for now because what we can do is just find the ones, and this is all obviously like a lot of just staring at chests, honestly, but we really need to find the one that kind of comes closest. So I'm gonna say, yeah, let's look at some of the other ones we got here because we could always reroll. This is a pretty important stage to reroll, actually. The main thing I'm going to use now, because the way I used to do this was basically just change the aspect ratio until hopefully I didn't get a head cut off, right? Now that doesn't really matter because we have zoom. And Zoom is making the tutorial part of this, like the actual turnaround, so much easier to do. So let's see if we got any usable results. Ooh, we got, yeah. I think we might be able to get away with this top left one because we have a back. Oh, let me switch to the view here. We have a backside and a front side, like side by side here. See? And there's no fade on it, so that could be a very functional one. And then this one, yeah, it's about the same. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna upres this one here. And any one of these will work. So I'll go ahead and upres the third one, even if it's not too close. And I'll upres this first one here because I need to show you guys what the power of Zoom can do. Zoom. Let's do Zoom 2 times on all of these. The intention here is to try to force it to create more turnarounds by just zooming. And the closer you're able to get at the beginning here, the better the results are going to be. Let's take a look at the first one here. This one was just zooming out of like a singular pose, so I'm not surprised that we get like a bunch of diversity that doesn't really make much sense here. But it's still pretty cool to see. It's not very useful though. Let's look at this one. All right. So you could see here that we got a slightly different pose of this one. Yeah, I'm going to say this one was a bit of a bust, but we got an interesting pose on the end here. You guys can't see that, but okay. Take a look here. Did I zoom out of all? Yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah, guess I did. Okay, let's look at this here. This one's probably the best out of them all. Like I kind of thought it would be, honestly. Um, let's take a look at it. So, although you'll notice that there's like small continuity issues and stuff, the main thing that we're looking for here is the fact that like one, it's not a cape anymore. It's all like kind of, this dressy blouse kind of thing. So this isn't too functional for us. It's kind of a bust, honestly. But if we kind of look at some of the other stuff that has been done here, like by Brandon here, look at that. That's already much closer. It's basic, like, again, the cleavage gets missing as it usually does, but we could start to kind of hone in the actual art style here that we're aiming for. So I'm going to pick this fourth one here. And what we're going to do, this is the first time I'm going to do this on stream. What we're going to do is we are going to slash tune a bunch of your all's results. And we're going to see if we can kind of create one that looks kind of like the original. But, we'll see how well this works. Because we're going to include the original as well inside of this. So let me upres these. Because so basically we're taking a little bit of a deviation here. But I like some of these. It's just the capes again. Like if you prompt too high on the yeah, like some of these are pretty good. That one again is without the cape, so I'm gonna zoom out a little bit on that one. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one for sure. I'm gonna zoom out on that.
Love that one.
Right, right. There's some really good ones here from you guys. And the reason why these ones are working is because the pans are there. You could just pan on an image that you liked or that worked. And you could see that the sorcerer trope really pops up here with the chest emblems or chest gems and stuff that are here. So sorceress is a great prompt to get usable images, like final images. But for character turnarounds, it heavily distorts the character, right? We get much more villainous stuff right off the bat. And these are very cool. These are uninjected prompts, so it's just expressions and all that sort of painterly stuff. Very cool. Alrighty. I'm just kind of going through what you guys have done. Some of these capes are enormous. I do I do like I think even though again they have the gems on them, I do like these. So I'm gonna upres this one and this one. All right. See here. Ooh, the art style is way closer on this one than it is been on our other prompts here. So I'm gonna say that even just this third one here is pretty good. Okay. Again, the sorceress ones tend to look way too evil for me, at least for what we're doing right now. Okay, we're back where we were. Cool. So what I'm gonna do is delete all the ones we don't need because we're not worried about turnarounds just yet. The cape is really screwing us up when it comes to trying to get this turnaround working well. So I'm gonna instead focus on slash tune. Um, okay. I'm gonna zoom out on some of these that Lizzie has been doing. That will definitely get us some clean turnarounds because she kicks butt and did that already for me. And while that's happening, I'm gonna take a quick drink here, and I'll be back in like a minute.
Hello. I like to sneak into the chat while Victor drinks his drink.
It's just a soda.
Oh, yeah, well, who am I to judge? I bet. I like soda. Like, what's your favorite soda? He drove you to drinking.
Yeah. I'll say this. I'm a big dark pepper kid. I drink a lot of dark pepper. I really shouldn't. For a while I quit dark sodas entirely, but I that didn't last. Um, okay. Ooh,
Yeah,
we
I'm a,
got
I'm
one
a
with
Diet Coke girl.
oh Diet Coke. Yeah, yeah. I could never get past the artificial sugar. It just doesn't. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
yeah. Let's see. At least for me, whenever I was trying to do like I make jokes about Fresca a lot because Fresca just kind of makes me laugh when I think of the vintage cans and stuff. And like it's one of those things where it's like it was the LaCroix of like my childhood, right? So like uh it makes me laugh just in idea alone. It's not funny at all. It's just the fact that people it's like it's kind of like when people look at like the vintage Taco Bell seats and patterns and stuff where they make like furniture and clothing out of it. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm all about that." That's a fun thing. Um all right, but just to kind of get back into this here. I do want to point out that we did get some really useful turnaround data from some of these here. A lot of them are coming from Lizzie because she knows what she's doing. But and it boils down to pans and zooms. But the main thing that I'm kind of wanting to emphasize here is that we really want to pick options that kind of look like the style that we had for uh for this original prompt here. And a lot of the results we're getting are kind of Americana, like like very painterly, or they're very anime. It's like we're not getting any in betweens here. But I am seeing some that I think qualify stylistically, and this will be less about continuity of the character itself, because again, this is something new that we're trying out here. This is less about the continuity of the character and more about the continuity of the style. when I was when I ran my own tuner for my Sage comics, my goal was to make sure the results encompass the diversity of my comics. My goal wasn't to make sure things were close or in aesthetic or accuracy, but to instead try to show the sheer diversity of the of my results, right? So, as you guys like build up turnarounds and do all this stuff, fun stuff, just all in Mid Journey, um, it's quite common that I end up trailing off a little bit, but I mostly want to look for style when I'm doing tune because that's what we're going to be tuning. Is we're trying to get us to a point where the 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 line weights, the just some of the color choices match match what we expect here. And I think the third one here is pretty good because you'll notice the more we pan and zoom off of the derivatives of what the stuff I didn't do Photoshop work on, the less the character stays on model. It starts to diverge in the different art styles. It starts to just skin tones will change, like all sorts of stuff you would manually have to clean up. But what I'm gonna do is take these two. Which one's the closest on here? I would say the third one. Okay. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build a very simple slash tune for what is it for this art style here. And I'm really trying to get rid of all these results because we want to just stick to the three that we have. So I'll first type slash tune. And then I'm going to paste the URLs. I'm just going to use the three here. But you'll notice there's way too much cape on this one. So I'm actually just going to do the laziest way you could do this, which is make a new canvas. You can use MS Paint if you want for this. And you're just going to crop down anything you don't want, right? So that would be any part of the cape that hangs too high, too low, too wide, whatever. I'm going to say something like this. And I know that I do not want these glowy bits here. So I'm just going to immediately just in paint those out. That's it. That's the only changes I'm going to make to this one because I know I like the art style. I think it matches pretty close to the original that we have before. And I am so surprised how little Photoshop is complaining about cleavage now. It was such a big problem. That you put a finger way too close to or just anywhere near the chest or the crotch of a character and suddenly no images would come back. And that is entirely so that you don't you don't like generate porn. Like that's the whole reason that's there. So it sometimes people will put black bars over parts of the body and then generate over that because it will not see it in the image interrogation. Kind of hilarious, honestly. Um, but let's go ahead and try to get rid of this glow because again, that's going to be a strong silhouette effect if we allow that glow to stay in here. And then I'll run a slash tune on this.
Let's see, I love those ones. They look very vintage.
Yeah, anything that's evoking the like hand drawn sketchy, like where it's been cleaned up, it's been done with all sorts of different, uh, good pens, good pencils. I mean, but and look at wow, we're getting some really nice anime realism. So that's kind of like Invincible and some of the other like Amazon shows. Floating caped hero. That makes sense. Yeah. We don't know if she's a floating caped hero. It's just the results that we're getting, right? So, instead, now that I have the glowy bits removed from this particular image, I'm going to flatten this guy real quick and then paste that in the Discord. So I'll quickly get rid of this tune here because I need to actually paste these images. And then the last one here, same thing. I'm just going to quickly get rid of the gems here and the oversized cape. Go for something like that. And then get rid of some gems. Actually just going to highlight select the whole thing. Her face is real screwed up in this one, actually. Oh, I didn't notice that. You'll notice that if we emphasize the cape in the prompts, right, the cape becomes enormous. It becomes this big thing. And there's a very good reason for that. It's because like it doesn't know how big of a cape you want to do. So every time you mention capes, it's going to just keep making it bigger, basically. And the thing is that the better way to handle that is to rely on the image weights to actually dictate the size of the cape, which is what we're trying to get to eventually. But for now, at least we're getting a good start here. I really don't like how distorted her face is here though. So I'm just going to see if I can quickly let Photoshop Beta pick a better face for us. Um, Most likely it will look really weird, but hopefully better than that because that looks awful. We'll see. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. It's a little too big, but it's fine. It's fine. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit flatten and then also copy this image over.
We won't tell her she's hideous.
All
It's funny because
right.
she's gorgeous.
Right. I mostly want to make sure that these two images are close enough in aesthetic. I think so. I think we're pretty good. Yeah. There's a lot more highlight in the original image. So we'll see if we can kind of emphasize that a bit. Um let's see here. Okay, cool. So at this point, we can actually kind of dig through some of your all's results because you guys have been helping throughout this whole process. Um, and the main thing I want to look for is what words you guys used and got us already kind of close, right? So I'm gonna say anime realism is probably pretty on point for this. Um, and everything else is more direction. It's more along the lines of like full dynamic poses and all that sort of stuff. Let's see here. Um, yeah, I think that might actually be our best start here. Yep, let's go with that. Let's build a tune. Let's go. I have a new slogan for the Vic Gnarly series, by the way, which is "Stay tuned," as in like cartoons and stuff. And I'm going to be leading a lot of the isekai stuff here soon, so we'll see how that goes. But we're gonna start by writing /tune, and then I'm going to paste the 3 URLs. And if the results don't really give us what we want, we can just increase the weight of the original image here. So we'll probably start off with that. But we do need at least a word. We do need something that gets us closer. And I know that some of you guys are already digging through like aesthetic websites like that tell you like, oh yeah, if you want to aim for this. I can tell because it's like 70s gritty pulp graphic novel, right? And these are fun prompts for sure, but I mostly want to see if we can do it just visually, right? So I know that we did anime realism. I'm gonna go with that just to get us at least because you can't just use images. I feel like there's a couple of reasons why that is, but we're just gonna do anime realism, right? And I'm just gonna say her. And is there any other descriptions I should really focus on? Because I really don't want to focus on the cape. I really don't want to focus on the cape. I just want, I think, uh, yeah, long black hair, and then we'll let the image weights kind of handle the rest of it. The reason I'm putting an emphasis on black hair is just because I really don't want to get too much diversity in there. There's a lot of things that can change with hair. I'm only going to do 64. Why not? And we will submit that for a slash tune. This will take fast hours to do because it does process a whole lot of images to do this. And we are going to essentially be running a caption test on this. Um, and then I can actually send you guys the tuner, and you can start messing with it and see what we get out of it. I'm gonna first confirm it before I do that, though. So let's wait we have to wait a little bit here. Actually, I'm gonna mute myself for a minute here, and I'll be back in 30 seconds or so.
I agree with Fresca. Grapefruit flavored Sprite. I was thinking about Clearly Canadian the other day. They wanted a peach one. Cape Fear. You guys are funny. Anyone have big plans this weekend? Western Loganberry. I was peach girl myself. Actually, Walmart of all places makes something called Clear American, and it is less than $1. Still really, really yummy. But it's definitely a knockoff. Here he is.
Yeah, there I am. Okay, cool. All right. So what I'm gonna do is just copy this tune over. Come on over to Discord here. Okay. I'm gonna paste this inside of VC text for you guys. All right, there you go. Getting unsick from a weekend is on the agenda. Oh, I'm so sorry you were sick. That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that, Lux. A weekend of prompt battles. Yeah, it's a good weekend. Let's see here. Music recording and MJ, of course. Yeah, I wouldn't it be neat to like, I don't know, like convert certain like music notes or certain like tones and stuff and see what Midjourney pops out. I know that plants can scream. Like if you put up a contact mic on a plant, you can like get them to like, effectively create music by like, I've seen people like turn bananas into instruments and stuff like that. Yeah, Music Journey. There you go. And it's just like you're basically just reinterpreting random patterns and dots, but it would be fun. Um, okay. All right. So I have the tuner posted. You can click it if you want. But essentially, what this is going to let us do is it's going to try to like it basically is going to give us a bunch of options for this girl, like in terms of the art style of it. Okay. And what I want you guys to do, we can compare the results here, but it's important for you guys to look at the original image while we're doing this. Okay. So I'm going to leave that open so that you guys can see it. And I am going to answer the results of this myself. And that way we're kind of all on the same page with this. So I'm going to bring this open into the tablet here. And we will just zoom in on the original. Again, we don't need the whole image. We just need to refer to how the line weight is, the color is, like how the lighting works in this. There's you're going to see so many different options inside of Tuner. You do not want to pick the ones that look like they're continuous to the character. You want to pick ones that are continuous to the art style. Okay. So I'm going to go through really quick and see if I can find anything that really screams that to me. Essentially, you're balancing, realism versus animation, and an animated look. So let's see what we get. And it's okay to not pick that many of them, by the way. I'm just gonna lean for ones that are a little farther away from anime. Yeah. There's a whole lot of realism mixed in here too, which is too understandable. But all right, I see someone's already run their first tuner code, so that's cool. Already kind of slamming through these. Um, that's a little too much. That's good. That should be fine. That's a good one. Okay. Yeah, let's go with that one too. A little too much anime in some of these. It's basically a balance between anime and realism at this point. But um okay. I would say this one too. Okay. I know you guys can't see my selections yet. Um got it. Okay. So you scroll all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to open this up here. You scroll all the way down to the bottom and you're going to see that there is a style code that gets generated. This is pretty cool to see in action, actually. It was where if you select different boxes, you could see your code actively changing as you select things. Pretty cool. But I'm just going to copy this code and we're going to hop back over to uh, our our Discord here, and we are going to apply that as a style. And now, granted, remember that part of what's happening here is this style code is within all of Midjourney. If we went to the Niji server right now and did this on Niji, we could get an entire anime version of this girl and see what the comparison of the results are. So I'll probably do both after this. Because they are different, by the way. So you can see we're already getting some results from other people's style codes, but I am going to now grab the prompt that we had earlier that was pretty successful. Let's see here, which one was it? Yeah. Again, I don't want to do superhero. I have a very strong feeling that she'll always be floating and all this stuff. So I'm just gonna scroll back a bit and let's just grab this one. Dynamic poses. Like that. And then I'll set an aspect ratio of 2:3. And I'm just gonna paste that. And you can see some of your all's results. Like here's Brandon's here. They are already way closer in terms of the aesthetic that we're aiming for, right? It doesn't matter about the continuity yet. We're just trying to get the line art to match what we want. And this one's from Lizzie here. Way closer. My God, that looks so good. Like the combination of anime and like almost like Nagel, like Peter Nagel or whatever his name is, the guy whenever you went or whenever you see like a barber shop that hasn't updated their pictures on the wall, you almost always see a Nagel on the wall. Like that anything that we get kind of in between there, I'm all down for. This one is also from Lizzie here. I'll open this up bigger. And you can see this is it's very beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but these diverge a lot more. Simply because we're leaning more on our own biases here as well. And
I
then
was
this
trying to
one's
tell
from
you on
Brandon.
mute that it's Patrick Nagel.
Patrick Nagel. Thank you so much. Yes, Patrick Nagel is like, and I'll just show you. You guys are gonna know who this is really quickly. Patrick Nagel is so famous because his works are like in every barber shop. You know what I mean? Like, and I gotta be careful because if I scroll down too much, you guys are gonna see nudie bits. But
Super
the
Duran Duran.
yes, yes, exactly, very much so. But he was very famous for applying minimalism to really pretty people, and that was super like taboo to do because like you're deleting so much of what they considered the characteristic of the person when the reality is he was applying cartoon logic. He was representing reality. He wasn't trying to replicate it. I talked about this in the video stream too, where there is a very strong difference between what filmmakers do and what animators do. And AI filmmaking is not animation. There's no representation of reality. You are faking an animated reality and then filming inside of it. So yeah, Patrick Nagel's great though. If you ever want to go for that kind of high contrasty, pretty look, he's a decent prompt. But I rarely use proper names for that reason though. So we could kind of see some of your old style code responses here. This one was actually mine, and I'm the most disappointed with it. Out of all your alls are better. But I'm disappointed with it because I think I relied too much on some of the darker prompts that were there. And it caused it to kind of be distant and it'll almost like, um, I don't know. I'm almost getting a vibe of like Journey, like the game Journey with some of this. So I think I will rely on one of your all's codes here. There's some really good ones, but this again, not again, but this one's far more anime. This one's from Brandon as well. Um, okay, let's take a look at some of them that are up-resed here. That's really good. I think that this one will work well. I got to shrink this down a bit so you guys can see better. Okay, this one's good, and let me actually make sure that's the same style code on here. Oh wow, hold on. There's one from Lizzie here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I want to see. I want to see just like real clean faces, but at the same time, like all that kind of like I don't know. There's some really great ones here from Lizzie here. The idea here is pretty simple. Now that we have a style code that we know works, right? Some of them are like, look at this, like this is awesome. Like that. A lot of these do work. We are going to grab a style code from one of these here. I'm going to start with Lizzie's here, and she's already doing image injections and doing all this stuff. She's jumping the gun on me here, but let's try to do a style transfer actually. Okay, so I have her code here. Let's go up to one of the ones that we had that was successful for me a little while back. Okay. Let's actually do, let's see here. Yeah, I think this will work. So we could try it on this one. Let's do a variation strong, but then in the data set, we'll have to remove Niji for this. But we can now just hit style and then paste Lizzie's code here. What this does a style transfer at the same time. We could do this with variation subtle as well. Just to kind of show you guys the results here. Variation subtle is probably not going to work, but we're going to do it anyway. Now I want to show you guys what that looks like. Oh, hold on. I did something wrong. Invalid parameter. I think I probably copied the code incorrectly from Lizzie. Let me go ahead and see here. He's got the loyal. He's got a loyal Mid-Journey army. I do. These guys are awesome. Um, I will note that I have to also be very conscious of that. There's not many people have an army of fan artists who can make art better than the artist that they're that they're emulating or copying or doing anything like that. If I, like the last thing I want to be known as an abuser of my privilege of being able to come up here. And so I recognize that part of my strategy is to post my comics early in the week so that I can talk about them at the end of the week. So there's no way you guys can like manipulate the vote count and stuff. At least I try to make sure that you guys don't do that. It is a legitimate worry for me because I if I like post a comic, I would say like 6 hours or 7 hours before I start streaming here, it would not be hard for me to be like, hey, here's my Reddit comic, and then you guys are actively manipulating like the vote count and stuff. I love it when you guys follow me to make sure you upvote my stuff. I approve that 100%. But I have to recognize that I am in a position here, and like a kind of in a position of privilege. So like I don't want to abuse that at all. Um, and so I try to separate my submissions to by about 3 to 5 days or so. Um, but I want to show you guys here. Hopefully this works this time. I just got to write style with a variation strong, and then also with a variation subtle here. Oh, this is one without both links. Let me find one that has both links. Come on. Where's everything I put into here? Uh Gonna go back up here. Takes me a minute because there's so many things that we've done already. Yeah, I'm not seeing the two links here. All good. All good. I'll just show you guys what this looks like here. So I'm gonna do a variation strong on here. Get rid of the Niji 5 code, style, and then paste the style link code. And same with this one here. Okay. Cool. All right, we're getting our results now. So the main thing is that if you hit variation subtle or strong and you switch the style that's on it, including like whether you're going to anime or not or whatever, like with Niji, if you do a style transfer with variation strong, it is incredibly impressive the way that it maintains the here, and I'll show you guys a little better here. Um, and this is also going to be an example that involves the sorcery gems and stuff that it's all because of the word prompts. But I want you to look at this here. Look how well it captured the kind of like line weight of everything. Like the actual color tones are so consistent prompt to prompt to prompt here. Like there's no variation, there's no chaos in between these. And then when I zoom out of that first one here, like we are getting way closer, at least in my opinion. We're getting way closer to our intention of the line weights that we had before. Some of these style codes, like Brandon's here, introduce a lot of overproduction, where it just seems like the style is super, super strong and stuff. But this is how you explore. This is how you check things out with Midjourney. And so you could see that some of these, are not really usable, but they definitely get us closer to what our intention is. So by experimenting with Tuner, you could essentially kind of hone in the world, like the world building of your stuff. I love the line art in this one. I know that it's not perfect, but it's super close to the original of what we intended. So I think I'm going to say Lizzie probably takes the cake for today. But there's some good competition though. Which one is this one? I
I
don't know.
love number 3 on that so much.
I know, right? The guy is so great. I love any sort of like gender bent fun stuff. Um,
Basketball.
right. Um, so what I'm gonna do is let's see here. I'll copy this over, and this is one of the ones that has the two links, so this is perfect. Let me actually open this up here. It's one of the ones with the two links. Perfect. Uh, Lizzie, this was one of hers. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to do a custom zoom, and we'll see if this works here as well. We can set the custom zoom to 1, hit the aspect ratio to 3:1, which will make it 3 times as wide as it is tall. And then we're going to keep the style code that's in there. We'll go ahead and delete most of the rest of this stuff. This is an illustration of a female superhero. Like all this kind of stuff, I'm going to get rid of. And I'm going to basically just see what we get off of that. The idea being is we're only relying on the image weights to dictate the rest of this. If I jump back over to it now, hit custom zoom again, and I repeat those steps, the thing is that it essentially lets me control everything with images. And that's really the real power that I have with this stuff is that I'm not relying on word prompts at the end of the day. I am relying on the images that I'm putting into it. So a traditional artist would be able to, you know, make much more use of this than even we do. But outside, if there's any codes or any words that I would recommend to add here, is just the stuff that's relevant to what you're zooming out to. So I'm going to say her and turnaround, and then separate that with a comma. We could do full body turnaround too. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And we're going to see what the results we get off of it. And you could see that our first one, where the only thing that we did was give image references, we actually get a lot of diversity, right? But all of the it kind of like changes the head poses a little bit. We could kind of look around, look how it added a hood. It did some stuff like look at this pose down here. Like that's kind of interesting already. But as soon as I add her full body turnaround, um, yeah, it's the cape. The cape is a little wonky, but it did it. Like it's able to try to replicate both the art style and the turnaround all kind of in one go. And you could see what I mean by capes. Like capes are really problematic because we need all the angles. And what this does though is and I'll show you guys here. Now I can just come into here, copy one of these, and since we have a reference for the cape, we could actually just come into here and just reintroduce the cape as an overlay. So like oops. So like if I come into here and grab this one here, this is a great reference for her backside, But if I just come into here and kind of group select wherever we kind of expect the cape to be, I'll see if I can get away with this with Genfill. We might actually do it, but I need to get rid of a little bit of leg. There we go, and reintroduce it like that. Okay, and then get rid of any sort of odd frayings and stuff like this. Okay. And we could do this as simple as this. Like we could just grab the color and then overlay it. And it already does what we want it to do, right? But the problem with that is there's no shading. There's no indication of what this shape is. It could turn into an airplane because it kind of looks like that from a silhouette above. So instead, we want to make sure we preserve as much of this cape as possible. So let's first just try a standard gen fill and see what that does. And some of the stuff you guys are making here, I see Brandon now has a nice big ass code. I'm not sure how he was able to make a code oh, he's combining multiple codes. I see. Neat. So let me show you guys what that looks like here. So if you put a hyphen in between the styles, right? You could like merge the all the codes that you guys have been messing around with here. And it seems like that's a very effective thing to do. Like you're nailing the kind of aesthetic. And are we like kind of group thinking this aesthetic here? You know what I mean? Like is it like, oh wow, some of these are really good from Brandon. Are these all coming from your? Oh wow, yeah, like this is all from his like mega style of all three or three different styles from the people here. That looks so good. Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna upres that because that kind of solves my problems without me ever actually doing it manually. Um, but that being said, I did want to show you what happens here really quick. So you can see that when I just did a gen fill around the silhouette shape of the cape, it didn't really do anything. It just gave me three different butts. Um, but what I want to do is actually go back, okay? And I'm going to go into select here, modify, contract. And then I'm going to put a pretty big number and I'm going to say like 20. And then I am going to only reintroduce the parts that I know that we need to be covered up. So we're going to do all of her arm here as well as a little bit of her hair like that. Okay. And then I will minus out with this the hair that is there like that. Grab this again just so that we make sure we got everything. Okay. And now that I have so much referenced around the cape, you could do this with in painting in the what is it in a mid journey as well. But if you reference enough of the surrounding area, there's a very good chance that you're going to have more successful, in painting. I also do this with gradients a lot. Like I'll say, all right, I need a long hallway with spooky lights in it. I'll make a gradient in a shape that kind of looks like the lights, and then only fill in sections of the image. So I'll do gen fill here. We'll see what we get. If this doesn't work, I'll write the word green cape. Oh wow, there's like a random person just standing behind her now. But it did fill in a lot more of the cape. Um, let's see. So if I now mute this to compare, kind of like she's doing a little jig, you know. But the main thing that I'm looking for here is seeing how much extra cape I got out of it. And there's a lot, actually a lot. But let's try to do this a little bit of a different way. Oh, I have to undo so many times I made her do a jive like that. Hold on. Okay. We can actually encourage this even more. And I will go ahead and add a color. Do this like that. And then the essentially what I'm trying to do here is remove everything that I don't want from it. So I'm going to go ahead and select in just a little bit extra here. A little bit extra here. Kind of shoot at the hip on this one, guys, but we'll see how it goes. Just to give us a little bit of influence on the results here. And I'll go ahead and gen fill that and see what we get. It's most likely the fact that the legs are right at the edge of the marquee line is going to give us the most problems. Maybe the elbow too. But look at that. We're already getting more fabric-like effect from it. And we get our butt back again. But with this, at least what I can do, if we just need to get something done, like I'm really not trying to like, do this in a way that like, it's like has a lot of integrity, honestly. I could just gen fill over the existing stuff until we get something that kind of works and then gen fill the edges. It's surprisingly effective, but it's also very lazy. Like if you're working for an artist or a commissioned piece or anything like that, the main thing you want to be looking for is just really really strong generative tells. And sometimes when you're really lazy about this stuff, it's just super obvious. But the cape is a lot stronger of this. That's not so flowy. So I'm going to go with something like this. And now that we have most of this image as a as a working cape or whatever, it's a little dressy. It's a little too much like a dress for me. But at the very least, by coming in here now and selecting all those areas that we avoided doing, you know, in painting before, the idea here is that I'm essentially just kind of retro, sculpting out the parts I don't like. And we'll see how close we get. It's not going to be however you imagine in your mind, but at least it will be functional for Midjourney. So that's cool. So there you go. Um, there is a little bit of, like if we wanted to go to the other poses here, we could definitely clean that up. But this is also an example of where like I would probably do something like this and then prompt that she's wearing a cape in order to make it so that this character is more dynamic and useful in that way. But there's a lot of cool stuff that's here just off of this one generation from Lizzie here or Brandon. I forgot which one of you actually. But the now that we have a backside for her though, right? We can now combine that into our sheet. So I'll just slam that all down, bring it to the slam zone, and copy that over. And we just keep expanding the canvas until we have tons of poses. Not tons. You really don't need repetition here. You want a complete turnaround. You want back, front, side, and then you can do running and jumping poses and all sorts of different actions for them to do. This is how I do my stuff in my comics. Is I'm oftentimes doing a style transfer. So the new tune combined with y'all's like efforts here really knocks it out of the park for some of these results. Like it really is impressive to use slash tune and not be reliant on anime anymore. Like you don't have to write anime anymore inside of your prompts. Um, the and this one's from Carlos.
So you do have a question.
Yeah, I would love to hear.
Someone's asking, when you select in Photoshop, are you using a mouse, touchpad, or something like a pencil, Apple Pencil?
Well, what I'm doing, I'm using my mouse, but I have a Huion 13 tablet. Um, that Huion 13 it's like the second smallest, or I believe it might be the smallest. Um, I've learned the hard way that I cannot work with large screens, like large touch screens, Cintiqs particularly. I didn't believe my wife when she was like, "It's too overwhelming. I don't like it." I bought her a ridiculous Cintiq that I drove up to Cincinnati to go pick up. I spent too much money on it. I get back, I surprise her by setting it up on her computer. She sits down in front of it and she goes, "This thing is twice the size of me." Like and I'm like, "Look, you could reach all the way from one end to the other and whatever." And she was just like, "I hate this. Like I actually hate this." And I was like, "Oh no." I spent way too much money on it. More than a computer on it. And so I was like, really? Like you don't like and it didn't take until I started using it because we had it and I was like, "Oh wow. Okay, I get it for like certain projects it makes sense, but like it's way too overwhelming to like just be surrounded by that many the big of a screen. Like I feel like I'm exercising every time I draw a line. Like I should
Yeah.
I shouldn't be losing weight when I draw. I'm just saying. The
Give me that
so
one.
yeah, right. I will say though that I like my little Huion 13. It knocks it out of the park for what I do. It's very lightweight, so I can easily pick it up and work with it. It is not wireless, so that's probably the main negative. Is that for being so lightweight and portable, it does have a kind of clunky USB-C cable that sticks off the side of it that you have to be aware of. But they do sell like standalone versions of it where it has like a little computer in it. You know what I mean? Like probably like a Windows PC or something like that. Um, but I would much rather get that than an iPad. An iPad is just awful for, like, I don't care how good the screen is, how good the pen is, or anything like that. It has everything to do with the applications and the stupid walled garden stuff from Apple. So yeah, I don't draw on any sort of like commercial tablet or anything like that. I draw on the Amazon ones that I bought or something. If you can afford a proper Cintiq or anything like that, that's probably the better route if you want to go for like absolute accuracy. But you're also spending a lot of money for a brand name. Like, you really don't need to spend that money anymore. Um, is there anything else? Let's see. I'll hop back over the chat so that we can see your all's chats.
People razzing you for your pronunciation. Um,
Oh yeah.
I have the same one. I think mine's just a little bit bigger than my cell phone, and it doesn't have any buttons or anything. But I do have to plug it in.
Hmm. Brandon and his big ass code. Yeah, yeah. You start combining the styles, they get real big. Tomato, 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 tomato. Yeah, I will say that. Wait, are you guys giving me shit about how I pronounce Hwayon?
They are.
Oh, what Hwayon? 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 Yeah, no,
I've always heard Huey on myself.
Huion? Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that it. Okay, I only know this because my buddy. Okay, shouldn't call him. I'll call him an acquaintance because he heavily disconnected from me after AI stuff. But um, I I watched a review of him going through the tablets, and he made a, yeah, Hawaiian Lewis in the news. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's he pronounced it Hawaiian. Okay, like, I'm gonna trust the guy who was paid to review that Chinese company, or Taiwanese company, or whatever it is. Um, it's so like yeah, I really had no problem with that pronunciation. So I'm curious how you guys would pronounce it. I'll spell it out for you so you know. There you go. Huion. I think that it is also. I love that you guys just railed me on that really hard for a second. So I don't get where to get the style codes. So Kai said that earlier. I saw that Kinky did respond, but just type /tune. And as long as it's inside of like VC Create or any of the generation channels, you'll be able to use it there. Um, it does take fast hours to use, I think. So you feel free to correct me on that, Kinky. I don't know if it's true. I'm like permanently in
It
fast
takes
hours.
hours just to make a quiz. You can use any quiz for free.
Got it. Got it.
Um,
Yeah.
Trying to find the actual style code that somebody used to make that image.
Lake
Um,
Hawaiian. Lake Hawaiian. Oh, that's too funny. Um, would you
Brandon, do
like
you mind
some cheese with
dropping
your
the actual
Hawaiian?
big ass style code in the chat for me? I can give it, or just give it to Kai because the one looking for it. Oh, here's
You would
one.
like some cheese
Let's,
with your Hawaiian? Like, yeah, no, I understand why you guys are making fun of me for that, but that's it's okay. I'm gonna move on here. Let's actually check out some of the stuff in VC Create really quick. We are coming up to 7 o'clock here. I'm probably gonna dip on out after that, but I really dig what you guys are doing here. Um, and let's see. So these are all from Lizzie. I'm just gonna upres these really quick. So not upres, but take a closer look at these. I am not doing the game right today. Let's see. Boom. There we go. These ones are from Lizzie. And I mean, they're awesome. They're awesome for being like super on model to our intention in terms of like how clean the line art is. But if we compare that to the image itself here, there's still a little bit of Americana that we're missing from this. Mostly, in my opinion, in the eyes. You notice how the eyes are much bigger and the lips, well, the lips are pretty close, but there's a little bit of wonkiness when it comes to the anime data sets affecting the rest of the kind of more trying to lean towards the Ben 10 aesthetic, right? I'll call it that. I'll call the American anime Ben 10 aesthetic.
Yeah.
Um, I was actually never a fan of that show, and the reason why was because of the art style. I really, it felt so generic to me, but people loved it, and I was so confused because I was like, I dig animes. I watch a lot of anime, or at least I did, and it's like it's one thing to go with like like how Archer. This looks a lot more like Archer. Um, but if you go for the if you go for that kind of Ben 10 look, you're actually just like you're introducing a bunch of like kind of Americana style minimalism into anime, and like Avatar did that too. But it's weird. It's just a weird thing for me personally. But you can see here we're reintroducing with the orbs from Senior Carlos with his orbs. Um, we are reintroducing some almost like heavy metal traditional like imagery. My friend actually sent me the album, the song, the main theme song from Heavy Metal, and was like, "Have you heard this song before?" I'm like, "Have you seen the movie?" and, and if disclaimer, if you're under the age of 18, you probably don't want to. I'm not going to recommend you watch that movie. But it's one of those films that I was like, you have to put a big disclaimer on it.
Classic.
It's not even just it's not just a classic kinky. It's a classic where if you show it to like a Gen Zer, they're gonna be like, "Wow, this is really
Yeah, you changed
offensive."
their life. And
Yeah,
yeah, all that
yeah,
too.
overnight. It's like trying to introduce a young person to Fritz the cat and trying to explain every bit of why this was considered socially acceptable at the time. Like
Yep.
like yeah, like a lot of Fritz the cat is like talking about race riots. You know what I mean? Because that was what everyone was talking about around that time. And there's a reason why all the black people are crows, and it has to do with Crumb and the way that he tells stories. But guess what? That is literally racist personification or racist minstrelsy. That if you do that
Mhm.
today, like you'll not be you will not get. I would not recommend trying to remake Fritz the Cat today. You will not get a single dollar
Oh,
in
there
your
are
budget.
so many that you can't that you could never
Yeah.
even Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Right.
The other night
Right.
I was watching it, and they use the F word, like the
Yeah.
for LGBTQ,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my god, what are you doing, Keanu? I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was in there.
Yeah, yeah. There's a especially when you talk about like one of the reasons that my series, the Sage comic series, focuses on the '90s is because I want to be able to juxtapose the kind of rosy tinted glasses we have about our upbringing and stuff with the reality of being gay in the '90s. Um, the thing is that like I haven't really gone into my characters in terms of their sexuality and everything like that, but it is important for me to note that like there's a little bit of closeted behavior from Michael in the series, and it all has to do with the fact that he can't be open about himself at work, otherwise he's going to get fired. And they will not fire you because you're gay. They'll fire you because they don't feel comfortable being around you anymore. And
That's good.
eventually whenever my series takes a serious turn, that'll probably be my subject matter, will be people finding out at the work that Michael is gay and that he cannot go back to work. Like it is going to be a big problem for him. And
I
it
had a
is
feeling about that guy.
yeah, right. Yeah. There will be a joke about gaydar, particularly, because it is such a '90s thing, or sorry, at least an early 2000s. Maybe it's a '90s thing too. I have to look how far back that phrase goes, but so many straight people said that they had gaydar when they really didn't, and it's just It's just people looking for earrings, really. That was what the entire thing was. Is like, what side is your earring? Or like, what ear is your earring on? It's like that is such a that's so silly. Um, I had and I'll just point this out really quick by going to my website here, Victor Gnarly. Inside of Tumbling Up, which is Sage's series here. I had a friend of mine who is a traditional comic artist who was like, "You son of a bitch! You son of a bitch! You didn't tell me. You didn't tell me that you gave Michael a bibrow." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's had a bibrow since the beginning of the comic series, and it's a little cut in the eyebrow." And it was just like the earring stuff. It was another quote unquote gay
A dog
tell,
whistle.
a little dog whistle, yeah. And the thing is that like, it was just one of those things where it's a storytelling element that I could mess with later, right? But I really wanted to emphasize that these are little things that I add to the story in order to give them identity. In order to AI is never going to repeatedly reliably produce the bibrow. It will sometimes, but in order for me to make sure that this he never breaks character, that bibrow needs to be in every panel of him. So yeah, in terms of trying to develop characters, you really need to get to know them. And I the number one thing that I try to do when it comes to this kind of stuff is that the more you do this, the more likely you're going to upres less images, because especially from my seasoned creative folks, like they really don't get this yet, which is that if you generate 40 images or whatever in a row with a repeat or whatever, if you just generate a bunch of images, you're going to be able to cycle through and go, nah, it's not my character. Nah, it's not my character. Nah, it's not my character. You'll be able to do it a lot faster if you have traditional art skills, right? Because you're more familiar with what's possible and what isn't. um you're looking for the key things that define your art style or your chosen style for this. um and you could see here, like even with this one where it's a 60s gritty cartoon, right? It doesn't really evoke that for me. But now if we take Brandon's big ass style code that he has here, so I'm just going to scroll up here. Where is it? There it is. I'm going to take his big ass style code that he's made. So, this
Hmm.
is one of them. Let's actually look if that's not the right one. I want to find the bigger one here. Yeah, this one's girthy. Let's go with that. Um, and then we'll come all the way down here. I'm gonna hit variation strong first, just to see what it do. What do it do? And then,
What that code do?
yeah, what that code do? Um, and then we'll see what variation subtle does as well. I will leave you guys eventually with a little preview of something here, but I want to first just show you the subtles and strongs here. So with variation strong, we get new poses, but look how much it constrained the art style. Actually, I gotta pop this open over here. Yeah, we got a lot better when it comes to constraining the art style to what we want. But then if we did variation subtle, this is really where the true power is to me, because you could keep re-rolling this and be able to get closer and closer to the intended art style, and we did on this first one. And now we could easily in-paint any missing elements to this. Like I could be like, all right, let me in-paint the eyes so that they are accurate to the eyes that we had before. Um, so if I just kind of do that real quick, I can hit variation region. Uh, in fact, before I do that, I'm going to grab the eyes really quick. Let's see here. There we go. And this one here. I'm just going to open this up in Photoshop really quick, grab her eyes like this, and then paste the eyes into Discord. Oops, that's the style code. That's what we want. I'm just going to paste her eyes into there. Okay. So now I have this tiny ass little picture of just her eyes and her brow. I'm gonna hit vary region on that picture that where it's like it's close, but it's not perfect. So I'm just gonna grab about the same region and then I will remove all the information that's including the chaos codes. I recognize that some people like Mavis really demand that the chaos codes are what makes him able to do things that I'm not doing. But um so we have to include at least some element of a text prompt in here. So I am just for now I'm just going to say her, just to give us something generic for it to focus on. The style code should handle everything else. Um, and you could see that Lizzie, uh, what did she do here? Oh, okay, that's a new prompt from her. Cool. Yeah, it's very similarly. Like you can see the styles are shifting subtly every time it messes with those. But I want to show you guys what it's like when we do the very region here, because I didn't run any image codes yet. You'll see a difference here in a minute. All right, this is really interesting. So let me switch this over to here. If we look closely at the faces, the eyes are much wider. They're much more American. Like the way that they're drawn is way more American right off the bat. And I think I have the originals to compare. Hold on. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, that's the variations. I see. Okay. I gotta grab the original here so that you guys can see. Okay. There we go. All right. So that's the original image. After in painting, look at that, wide-eyed and not anime at all in that.
Yeah.
And so now, just to show you guys what this does, we can go back into very region, which will save everything that we did, including like the images and stuff that we included. I'm gonna add the code IW2. And the main negative of this is that you don't get different facial reactions the higher the image weight is. It's going to be a lot closer to whatever your original intention is here. But doing in painting with image codes is how you kind of hone in your thing without having to buy Photoshop or whatever. If I say buy Photoshop like you could actually own it. Like, come on, everything is subscription services today. I hate it. I absolutely hate that we don't own anything anymore as a people. So gross to me.
Right.
Um, but and I'll preview some of the other ones you guys are doing. Whoa, I like this one a lot. That first one's cool. Um, you can see it's just trying its best to replicate the line art and the way the gradients are and the colors. It's great for this. But now, this one is from yeah. Sorry, your name's slightly
Cillian?
cut off here. Cillian, thank you so much. Yeah.
Is it
Um,
Social Lion or Sicilian? I don't know. One of those
I
two.
don't know. Yeah, mine's cut off because I'm in streamer mode right now. So I do that to protect you guys.
Oh,
Um,
I just talked to this guy.
no, you're good. You're good. I
Social
actually,
Lion.
no, usually that's just left on, honestly. But the thing is that with the higher image weight, we we don't necessarily get closer to our intention of like whatever that image is necessarily, but you could see just how little the expression changes, right? It's kind of all wide-eyed and open, which is why when you have a high image weight, it can be usually a negative because it doesn't give you the kind of interesting diversity. You would just draw it if you just wanted that same thing again. So a lot of cool results from you guys. Most of these seem like Empress, like she's gonna really kick your ass here in a minute. Like that's the vibe I'm getting from like 90% of your all's images here. Um, but I guess the thing I mostly want to point out here is that in that very region that we did, I'll pop back up here. Within that very region, we can actually input a lot more in terms of our intent here. So right now, we basically have a high image weight, right? Let's switch it from the style code that we created, and we're going to switch it to anime. So Niji, and then I'll keep the image weight at 2 just so we see what we get. And then I won't change anything about the style. But I'm also going to, at the same time, just to show you guys what this does, we are going to put an expression or a mood at the front of it. So let's do like anger, frustration. Let's just do anger. Let's just see what happens when we just put a bunch of anger into it. And then I need to make sure that I remove the image code, like the image weight, because otherwise it's going to reference way too much of the image, the reference image that we gave it. So let's see what we get. This one will be off of, I believe, just let's see, her. So we'll see what the next one comes up. So just a sec. Alrighty, let's see what our first version of region in paint did. Oh wow, it made her eyes super green. That's cool. So this was by removing all the data, like everything in it, putting a high image weight and switching it to Niji. It what it did is it gave us basically green glowing eyes, right? Makes sense only because one, it's a green color palette. Two, the image that we're injecting has green pupils, but they're pupils that are not common in anime. If you look at the original here, but yeah, look, that's a very American style or Western style. I shouldn't say American, Western. But if we now look at what happens when we add the word anger to it, um, nothing. This one didn't really do anything. So we'll go back up to the very region here. Hit very region. And then I'm going to put a bunch of weight on the word anger. So let's do like 4. And then under the image weight, I'm actually going to lower it to like 0.7. See if this works. The idea being here is that you can start messing with codes and they will give you things that are, that it may get you closer to what you intend to do. I love all these. These are really cool. Again, Lizzie's knocking it out of the park. But overall, I guess the thing I mostly want to show you guys with this, and we didn't really complete the whole character today. That's my bad. I always end up skipping something, and I apologize. But um, the main thing that we're doing here is we're going to end up with a character sheet, and I'll pop open my own Discord here so that you guys can see what these look like when they're done. I am currently working on a comic. First off, just a random little derail. I am really excited about this comic. It's the one I'm working on with the mods, and I will not spoil anything about it. But the main thing is that the character sheets that we get is under original characters in my Discord. This is Vicky. Let me open this up here. Mute this. Okay, I'll turn that back on. This is Vicky. This is my female OC. And she's great. I'm having a lot of fun making comics with Vicky lately. I don't like I said that she was Sage's manager at some point, and my one of my animation buddies was like, I don't like that she's a manager. I think she should be like just another subordinate along with Sage. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But Becky has been working on like all sorts of anthro furry kind of stuff. And she's pretty prolific with trying to bring non-humanoids into the equation. It's really really hard the more you introduce non-humanoid elements. You could see how the horns are not having too fun on this one. But I really dig this character. This is actually a Dolly 3 character. And there's too much diversity in what is it in the final results, but man does it look cool. I like it, but I think that in terms of trying to get this repeatable, I'm very curious if you guys could do it. I love this look though. I love the idea of celestial beings being just people in suits. Um, Such a cool idea. But on the last stream that we did Matt Pinn's, like basically simplified his character art and then turned it into a turnaround. And the turnaround is way too overproduced. Like it no longer looks like the character anymore because of just how non-humanoid it is. This is where you have to sacrifice some of your creative intent in order to deal with the fact that mid journey's data sets are still limited. Note fantasy furries are hard mode for character creation. Results are as close as I could get. So it's much harder to do something like this than for us to say to do something like Renata here. Renata is very easy because she has such a simple silhouette and her hair color is the same as her jacket. You'll notice that commonality with a lot of AI characters, or I say it's a persona trait. A persona trait of AI characters is that their hair color and their jackets tend to match. Um, and one of the biggest ones that we did that actually keeps coming back up is Agent Blue. This was submitted by one of y'all, and Agent Blue is awesome. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can prompt with her, and it all kind of evokes that like comic book era, just very cool aesthetic that you can get out of her stuff. And here's her sheet there. So I'll open this up. And you could see just the number of dynamic poses that I'm picking in order to kind of combine all those together. We didn't get into saving characters today, but if you're familiar with my streams or go to my YouTube channel, you can see how we do that. And this is Vicky's. Sorry, this is Kinky's here. Um, for gluttony here, and she has a ton of image references all through here. So she's picking and choosing as needed, but you get some really cool results by just mixing specific poses. If you need gluttony from the back, you just select the images of his back, right? Gives you multiple images will give you diversity, but fewer images will give you control and direction. One of my favorites is Boozlegast. Boozlegast is great. He's real fun. If you're doing furries, the easy mode of doing furries is just to ask for a costume. Like this is a tiger costume smoking a cigarette. That's the prompt. So it's a lot easier to find little hacks like costumes and stuff rather than trying to make a truly anthropomorphic character. And yeah, outside of just the random stuff you guys have been doing, like there's some really cool stuff here. Um, and you can make some cool comics with them, or storytelling or anything you want to do. This is an example of where we were doing comics that built entirely in Midjourney. Like we had the basic setup for them, and then used this to essentially start from here. Right, we have a character sheet here. We start from this. This is one of the ones that was the first one that we did with the tail, and it was really successful because the tail does not invade the silhouette much. It's like it's very easy for it to overdo it on the tail. So by focusing so little on the tail, even having a couple of prompts or a couple of image references where she has no tail will let us get more interesting results and that don't like take up the image too much. Yeah, and another character we have here is Mona. Mona is really, really reliable. She is probably my most reliable cat girl, cat boy, or whatever you. I prompt a lot of cat boys, so it's a lot of transgender, a lot of LGBTQ, characters that I end up putting into my stuff. um, Mona is kind of gender neutral in my opinion. And I really like Mona. She's super repetitive. The ones with the guitar, I use as an example to show you what happens when you add props. You can just ask for a guitar and she's holding a guitar, right? You don't need to have her have the guitar in the sheets. But now that I do have it in the sheets, I can always refer to them and go, okay, yes, she has a pink guitar, and just kind of refine my results. I'm going to hop back over to chat here. And just kind of chat with you guys for a minute because it is the end of the stream. And I'm going to swap back over here, get rid of this, and yeah, let's see. All right. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. The Crouching Cat Mona is my favesies. Yeah, she's great. I really do like messing with Mona a lot. It's fun to do a whole rock concert with cat boys and cat girls. Um yeah, and let's see here. We have thank you so much for the awesome session from Kitsune. No, thank you so much for joining. I really do appreciate everything you guys do when you come in. I had no idea that cut in the eyebrow was meant to represent bi people. I thought it was supposed to be like a scar imitation that is considered to be cool. Yeah, depending on what generation you are, I think the Gen Zers are much more likely to be like, oh, that's a battle scar from an anime. I want to have a cool cut. And like, if you time travel, if you asked like some like mumble rapper from the 2010 or 2020s to go back in time and go to the 90s, he's just gonna get hit on by a bunch of dudes. Let's see here. Uh, as always, thank you, Victor. No, I no, thank you so much. I'm gonna switch over to the empty couch here and click your link here because I have to be careful about links now.
Oh, I just did it for you.
Oh, okay, okay. Thanks, Victor. Oh, I see. I see. Thank you so much. There we go. Yeah. Very cool, guys. I love seeing the little Dolly threes and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Oh no, he does that in here.
Oh, he does. Really? You do that
Yep.
all in wow. Wow. Actually
He does
getting
that
proper
on, I
text.
believe it goes back a couple versions and tinkers with it until he gets the letters.
Nice. Nice. I it's one of those things where like I'm looking at Photoshop. I'm gonna hit these buttons for you. When I look at like it and it's like I could also just type that in Photoshop and slap that in. It is such a true it shows the right amount of effort to basically say like I did this all in Midjourney. You go, oh wow, that's actually more effort than if it was done traditionally, and that's true for a lot of things. I like to rely on the machine head to figure out my problems, but that's only because like I like keeping things consistent that way. Nice wave there, Lizzie. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Use a lot of fast hours, but I love free relax mode for doing text. Awesome. Well, I'm glad to see. I'm glad to hear that. Relax mode is probably the only way that I was able to get started doing most of my stuff. Um, Awesome, awesome guys. Thank you all so much. From Brandon, thank you, Victor, and of course, Kinky. Always so fun. Always so fun to have you here too, Brandon. Of course, you're quickly being the go to the go to like mixer here. Like you're really good at bringing different elements together. And of course, thank you. It seems to do text pretty decently in V3. What do you guys use? I see. Okay, you guys keep chatting here. Thank you all so much. I'm going to pop on off and probably find the rest of my sandwich to eat. Thank you guys.